Chapter 1363. Li Heavenly Venerate didn't say much and immediately flew down. All of a sudden, the three of them landed in front of Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu, who was the first to run, immediately stopped, mainly because he saw Yi Tianyun. He didn't know the other two people. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. When Xiao Wu saw Yi Tianyun, he was overjoyed and hurriedly threw the boulder in his hand to the side. Boom! The boulder smashed into the ground and created a deep pit. Many disciples behind him dropped the boulder and respectfully shouted, "Heavenly Cloud's great emperor." There was no doubt about Yi Tianyun's prestige here. Basically, everyone knew who Heavenly Cloud's great emperor was. In every city, there was a statue of Yi Tianyun. This was not ordered by Yi Tianyun, but by Shi Shuayun. She said it was to give them absolute faith. If they didn't even know who their great emperor was, then there was no way they could rule. Therefore, it was necessary to make a statue so that other people didn't know. Unless it was some new people, otherwise, everyone who was just born would know. There was such a statue in every city, so how could they not know? After Yi Tianyun learned about it, he felt very helpless. But since Shi Shuayun did it, he just let her do it. Heavenly Venerate, mighty Heavenly Venerate suddenly grabbed Xiao Wu and sent a stream of energy into his body. The energy flowed through Xiao Wu's body and examined every single detail. Xiao Wu was scared, but no matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from Li Heavenly Venerate's hand. Xiao Wu, don't be nervous, his bloodline is the same as yours, he can stimulate the power of the bloodline in your body, make you stronger. Yi Tianyun explained to him, indicating that he should not be so nervous. Xiao Wu had absolute trust in Yi Tianyun, so he immediately stopped being nervous and let Li Heavenly Venerate investigate his body. Of course, he could only let Li Heavenly Venerate investigate his body. Soon, Heavenly Venerate force circled around once and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. He stared straight into Xiao Wu's eyes with a soul-stirring gaze. At this moment, Xiao Wu felt that he was being stared at, and his hair stood on end. He didn't know who this guy was, but he didn't look simple, and he was very strong. The mighty Sky Heavenly Lord looked very strong indeed. His body was tall and sturdy, and he was more than 3 meters tall, just like a small giant. Although they were still lacking compared to the other tall races, they were much stronger in terms of cohesiveness. This was his feeling. Whether it was accurate or not was another matter. Good, very good. Strength Heavenly Venerate, who had remained calm all this while, burst into laughter. His laughter spread throughout the entire 3 realms. The group of people all raised their heads to look at the sky. They did not know where this laughter came from, but it actually penetrated so deeply into their hearts. This was the laughter of an upper Empyrean, so its might was naturally extraordinary. Just the laughter alone was enough to scare away a group of people. Congratulations, senior brother Li Tian. You've found your descendant. Yi Tianyun congratulated him from the side. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler finally reacted and gave Yi Tianyun a thumbs up. He didn't think that Yi Tianyun would be smarter than him. I also congratulate senior brother Li Tian. It's truly a coincidence that you've found your descendant. I didn't think that the descendant of this generation would be in junior brother's faction, and he would even be a capable subordinate. What a coincidence! Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler shook his head. There really was no story without coincidences. Everything was too coincidental. There's nothing more to say. I'll take care of the Divine Realm battle. However, in return, I'll be the one to train him. Of course, I won't take him away. I'll leave him here and won't restrict his freedom. Heavenly Venerate Force immediately decided to help protect Yi Tianyun. Just finding his descendant was enough for him to owe Yi Tianyun a favor. If he didn't help Yi Tianyun, that would really be inexcusable. Moreover, little Wu would definitely participate in the Divine Realm battle. He couldn't just watch his descendant participate in the Divine Realm battle, and he might even die. Okay, then I'll leave him to senior brother Li Tian. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. Being personally taught by a Heavenly Venerate and awakening the power of his bloodline, little Wu's future would definitely be bright. At that time, the Divine Realm of the 3 realms would have one more super general. Little Wu, you should listen to senior brother Li Tian's teachings. He is a super expert, and he is also your ancestor. Yi Tianyun said seriously. I hope you will cultivate well. The divine realm's defense depends on you. Yes, Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Little Wu said firmly. He was absolutely obedient. Immediately, Heavenly Venerate Force left with Little Wu. He didn't ask where they were going. Anyway, he was going to awaken his bloodline or teach Little Wu various kinds of power. When Little Wu came back, he would definitely be stronger. Little junior brother, now it's my turn to congratulate you. With the three of us protecting you, there won't be any big problems in the divine realm. Unless the other side sends a more powerful expert, such as several upper heavenly venerates, you will definitely be able to defend the divine realm. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler was very confident in their strength. Then I'll leave it to Senior Brother Sword. Yi Tianyun nodded. Okay, that's all for now. If there's anything else, you can come to me. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler stretched out his hand and pinched his fingers, then frowned and said, but the divine realm battle should start soon, at most in less than 100 years. So soon? I heard that it will take a long time, at least 1,000 years to start. Yi Tianyun said in surprise. According to previous inferences, it should take a few thousand years, but this time it's a lot earlier. I think it has something to do with the changes in the divine realm. Heavenly Venerate Sword Ruler patted Yi Tianyun's shoulder and said with a smile, if you really want to go to the divine realm, you will need more power to protect your own forces. The cruelty there is 100 times crueler than here. However, I think Master won't just watch as something happens to you. When the time comes, he will definitely come to help. You can rest assured about this. This is also the reason why I'm willing to participate in the divine realm battle. If your forces are too weak, it will be hard for you to even protect yourself. In addition, without any external help, even if you go, it will only be a dead end. But now, your situation is different. With the three of us and Master's help, you can basically stabilize the situation. It's just that during this period of time, whether it's yourself or your forces, you have to increase the overall strength as much as possible. Of course, I know that it's very difficult to increase a lot. After all, it's not that simple to increase a force. It requires too many resources. After he warned Yi Tianyun, he turned and tore open the void to leave, leaving behind a pondering Yi Tianyun. In less than 100 years, it's going to start. Chapter 1364. It's been a long time since I last refined pills. Let's start now. Tianyun had nothing else to do for the time being. He just wanted to improve his overall strength. Pills and weapons were very important things. Especially pills. They were highly consumable items. The consumption was extremely shocking. Therefore, he needed more pills. After plundering the evil spirit god domain, he obtained a lot of spirit herbs. He could refine many batches of pills. Then he returned to his hall, took out a high-grade alchemy furnace, and started refining pills one by one. He refined thousands or even tens of thousands of pills at once. A thick aroma wafted out from the main hall. The fragrance enveloped the entire three realms. Just smelling this fragrance was enough to cause their cultivation speed to increase by quite a bit. The rest of the elders rushed over. They didn't know what was going on. When they entered the hall, they saw Yi Tianyun sitting on the ground in the middle. There was a huge alchemy furnace in the air. Every time it erupted, thousands of pills would shoot out and fall into the jade bottles on the ground. Shi Shuayun and the others came over and picked up the jade bottles. After checking, they found that they were all very good grade 3 god domain pills. Whether it was a star lord, an earth lord, or even the lord of heaven, it would have a good effect. Now, good pills were being produced in large quantities. This refining speed made them dumbfounded, especially Elder Gu and the others. Heavens, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Even grade 3 god domain pills can't be refined so quickly, right? They were all experienced and knowledgeable, but they had never seen such a terrifying refining speed. The number of pills refined in one go was too many. They were all dumbfounded. Yi Tianyun was in crazy alchemy mode, which increased the refining speed by 128 times. His refining speed was simply explosive. The pills that he refined were naturally much faster and more numerous. Those alchemists in front of him could not be mentioned in the same breath at all. These pills are refined. Take them out when you come in and distribute them. Those who have reached the Sage King stage and above can receive them. This will be a universal celebration to celebrate the establishment of the divine realm of the three realms. Yi Tianyun wanted to find an excuse. He couldn't possibly say that he was preparing for the divine realm war, but rather that it was a gift. The rest of the pills would be placed in the contribution temple so that they could exchange for them with contribution points. It was impossible for him to keep giving out elixirs for free. That would be reaping without sowing. No matter what, he needed to complete some missions. Otherwise, he would just sit and eat. He just wanted to make them happy and reward them well. All right. They took them one by one and began to arrange these matters. In addition to those above the Saint King stage, for those below the Saint King stage, Yi Tianyun would also refine a large number of pills, but this number was already terrifying enough. The number of cultivators below this level was extremely terrifying. There were at least hundreds of millions of pills. Of course, refining low-grade pills required less time and were easier to successfully refine. Thus, there was no need to worry about spending too much time and energy. All of them were extremely excited. Only Yi Tianyun could make such a big move. Next, this batch of pills was quickly distributed, immediately causing a shock in the divine realm of the three realms. A domain lord level existence was personally refining pills for everyone. This made the others feel extremely touched, especially when everyone could have one. Perhaps it was not a lot, only one. However, they knew how difficult it was. Even newborn babies were able to get one. Wasn't this shocking? This meant that how much energy was needed to achieve this step. But Yi Tianyun did it, and continued to do it, making them even more willing to work for Yi Tianyun. Those forces that had originally joined Yi Tianyun had their loyalty greatly increased. They were deeply moved. They felt that it was really good to join this force. Unlike those forces, who were extremely ruthless. Here, as long as one worked hard enough, they could get everything. Time passed quickly. Yi Tianyun has been refining pills, and he spent most of his time refining low-grade pills. Under the crazy refining, most people could get it, but there were still a few who didn't. Finally, after refining for half a year, everyone got a pill. He also specially refined a batch of pills and hung it in the contribution temple for others to exchange. Finally finished refining, the proficiency increased a lot. I almost leveled up. Yi Tianyun looked at his God Pill Master level. Before, he was at level 3, but now he almost reached level 4. If he could refine level 3 pills, he would have leveled up a long time ago. But even if he wanted to refine, he didn't have enough resources to do so. The resources needed to refine level 3 God Domain pill is not bad. Fan Yu level pill is much easier to refine. Ding! Completed special quest, World Celebration, People's Unity, gained all loyalty increased by 50, 1000 compressed crazy point, 1000 compressed proficiency. At the same time, gain the title, People's Unity. People's Unity, when facing enemies in the three realms God domain, your own strength is increased by 5 times, your own healing ability is increased by 5 times, and the effect of cultivation consolidation is increased by 10 times. Is there such a good thing? Yi Tianyun's eyes widened. He wanted to improve his overall strength and at the same time stabilize his position. Who knew that he would get such a special title by accident? Such a title will really have a great effect when facing enemies in the future. And this was an effect that affected everyone, not just him. Tianyun, it's hard on you to refine so many pills. Shi Shuiyun came over with a cup of tea. Her beautiful eyes were full of worry. It's not hard, it's okay, I'll just treat it as cultivation. Yi Tianyun smiled. Refining so many pills really gave him a lot of experience. No matter what, don't work too hard. Shi Shuiyun sat next to him and smiled. The response outside is very good, everyone is very enthusiastic, and the task is a lot faster than usual. Well, this is a good sign. But I have to release more special tasks. For example, if you work hard in cultivation, you will get a lot of pills for every breakthrough. Lee Yun said solemnly. This task is not very good, right? If you cultivate too fast, it's easy to have cultivation deviation. Shi Shuiyun frowned. Don't worry about this. The environment here has been modified by me, unless there is a mistake in cultivation, otherwise this will not happen. Chapter 1365. Naturally, Shi Shuiyun would not interfere with Yi Tianyun's decision. Since he had already said so, she would not say anything else. She believes that Yi Tianyun's decision will not be wrong. It has never been wrong before. Tianyun, why are you in such a hurry to issue such a mission? Something big must have happened. Shi Shuiyun could feel that something was wrong. Raising his cultivation so quickly meant that he was either protecting the God realm or fighting everywhere. Yi Tianyun had said that he would not fight everywhere. That meant that he was protecting his own God realm. Looks like you've seen through me. But once this mission is issued, you'll see through it soon. Yi Tianyun did not hide anything. He said with a smile, it's the God realm war. It's an extremely dangerous war. If we succeed, we'll become a grade 4 God realm. If we fail, we'll be exterminated. However, I'm confident that I can win this round. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let so many lives in the God realm be implicated by my selfishness. Moreover, the God realm war could also affect this place. Even if I don't participate, I'll still be affected. Strength is always the most important. Therefore, raising one's strength is equivalent to increasing one's chances of survival. Even if Yi Tianyun did not participate in the God realm war, it could still affect this place. The main thing was to see where the core of the token appeared. If it appeared in a grade 1 God realm, this place would definitely be affected. Even a grade 2 God realm would be affected. Unless it appeared in a grade 3 God realm, the effects would be reduced. Whether it was Fan Yu or a grade 2 God realm, they were too close. It was easy to be affected. The start of the war required resources. Where would the resources come from? Definitely from ready-made resources. The surrounding God realms could be robbed or turned into battlefields. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so cautious. The Heavenly Spring Domain's Glazed Domain Lord was even more cautious. She had already made arrangements. Those who were unprepared would die. The God Realm War. Soon, Shi Shuiyun understood and was deeply shocked. She did not expect such a big event. When are you going to announce this to the public? Shi Shuiyun's expression was solemn. This was a very important matter, and they couldn't afford to be careless. It was even more impossible to not announce it to the public. After all, everything had to be prepared. Giving them enough time to prepare, and more importantly, letting them know what kind of monster they were facing. Let's talk about it in a few decades. Let's not talk about it now. Yi Tianyun thought for a moment before saying, but we can first make it clear to the other elders and discuss the plan internally. The plan is fine, but what about yours? Shi Shuiyun's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. After understanding the situation, Shi Shuiyun realized that their forces were just like throwing an egg against a rock. They could not withstand this battle at all. His overall strength was too weak. Even if he tried his best to raise it, he probably wouldn't be able to raise it by much. However, when Yi Tianyun said that with the help of 3 celestial venerables, they could basically stabilize the situation, she reluctantly heaved a sigh of relief. However, she was still worried about Yi Tianyun's safety. Yi Tianyun truthfully told her all the dangerous things that had happened. Especially when they were fighting for the core of the token, that was the most dangerous moment. Facing the encirclement of so many strong enemies was the most fatal. Don't worry. The thing I'm least afraid of is being surrounded by enemies. Yi Tianyun hugged her, his eyes full of confidence. I never do things that I am not confident about. You can rest assured about this, okay? Shi Shuiyun nodded gently, but she was still very worried. While Shi Shuiyun was busy with her own matters, Yi Tianyun stayed in his room with nothing to do. At this time, he thought about the special mission of the worry-forgetting bridge. He had not been able to enter it then. Could he enter it now? Now that my cultivation has improved a lot, I should be able to get through it, right? Yi Tianyun had previously felt that he needed the power of a celestial venerate to get through. Although he had not become a celestial venerate yet, his overall strength was enough to crush an ordinary celestial venerate. Immediately, he did not think too much about it. He immediately teleported above the core. Just like before, his soul was stripped from his body and reappeared in the small village. There were still people coming and going, and it was very lively. He still stayed in the small grass hut, which looked very simple and crude. Soon, he arrived in front of the worry-forgetting bridge. Now, many souls had entered the worry-forgetting bridge and gradually disappeared into the distance, never to look back. This time I must pass through here. I feel that if I can get to the other side through here, I can definitely win the battle of the divine realm. Yi Tianyun had a feeling that if he could get to the other side, he would be able to control the power of the three realms. The three realms did not seem very big, but the power within it was extremely terrifying. Once it erupted, even an upper celestial venerate would be instantly killed. A 9th grade divine inscription master was not a joking matter. How much power did one need to be able to reach 9th grade? He arrived in front of the worry-forgetting bridge and lifted his foot to step onto it. As he did so, he immediately felt his consciousness blur. This time was much better than before. At least he did not feel as if he was being sucked in immediately. There's a chance. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He immediately lifted his foot and continued to walk forward. As he walked forward step by step, his consciousness began to rapidly be sucked out. Originally, his soul had already entered, but now it felt more like his soul had left his body. It was like his soul was being stripped away on a deeper level. He clenched his teeth and continued to walk forward step by step. His consciousness was rapidly being sucked out. "Stabilize for me," Yi Tianyun groaned. He wanted his lost consciousness to continue to be fixed in his soul. Only then could he continue to walk forward. With every step, he needed to rest for a while to stabilize his consciousness. Only then could he continue to walk forward. At this time, he had only walked half the distance. There was still half the distance to go. He turned his head and looked to the side. There were souls following him, but they were walking leisurely. After crossing the bridge, they finally walked into the grass hut in front of them. It seemed that their goal was also the grass hut in front of them, not to disappear on the worry-forgetting bridge. The truth. Yi Tianyun clenched his teeth and continued to walk forward. He guarded his soul bit by bit, not letting his consciousness leave. During this time, he felt the strength of his soul begin to rise at a crazy rate. Cultivation could be increased at will, but the strength of one's soul was not something that could be upgraded just by smashing experience points. It could only be improved by relying on one's own cultivation. But now, it was growing at a rapid pace. This made him feel somewhat happy. Chapter 1366. Yi Tianyun walked forward step by step. He walked very slowly. Sometimes it took him a few days to walk a single step. He just barely managed to walk one step. Fortunately, he had plenty of time and basically did not need to do anything outside. Before coming down, he had already informed Shi Shuayun that he was going into seclusion and would not be here for the time being. If there was an emergency, she would contact him immediately. But from the looks of it, there would not be anything urgent for the time being. Although Heavenly Venerable Sword C was not here, he would immediately notice anything that happened here. The most important thing was that if little Wu stayed here, who would dare to touch this place? Heavenly Venerable Li Tian could flatten them in minutes. As time passed, his soul rapidly strengthened. Every time he strengthened a little, he felt that he had stabilized and that he still had some energy left. Only then would he take another step forward. Ding! Soul strength successfully upgraded to God Lord level 9. A pleasant voice sounded from the side. The strength of his soul cultivation was 4 levels higher than his own cultivation. He could not use experience to increase it, but it did not mean that the system would not prompt him to level up. It was just that he did not pay much attention to it. The strength of the soul had always been the most important level for cultivation. However, there were limited ways to level up, so Yi Tianyun did not pay much attention to it. There were many ways to cultivate, such as through life and death tempering, which could improve a lot. Alchemy and blacksmithing could also speed up the improvement. Among them, engraving a god seal was the best. Even so, the improvement was extremely limited and rather slow. From the fact that Tianyun had refined so many things and was only a few levels higher than him, it was obvious that the difficulty of improving was too great. Some soul strength could not keep up with their cultivation, which could easily lead to chi deviation. Therefore, they would cultivate alchemy, blacksmithing, or cultivate martial arts in this area. For example, cultivating illusions could improve one's cultivation. The strength of the soul was closely related to all of one's abilities. It could resist heart demons and increase the range of spiritual consciousness. These were the most common. Alchemy was even more important. It could stabilize one's mind so that there would not be too many mistakes when refining pills. Now that Tianyun's soul strength had been greatly improved here, it was as if he had obtained a good opportunity. After all, it was usually very difficult to have such an improvement, which made him very happy. In this way, the increase in the strength of his soul would greatly improve his various aspects, especially when fighting against powerful enemies. He would be able to maintain his consciousness. I have to train here before I leave. I can't miss out on such a good place. Tianyun could be considered a cultivation maniac. How could he miss out on such a sacred place to cultivate his soul? Thus, he took each step very seriously, tempering himself. Several years passed in the blink of an eye, but he sat steadily at the end of the bridge, cultivating his soul. He only needed to take a step forward and he would be able to cross the bridge of worries. However, he did not do so. Instead, he continued to cultivate. He felt that he could improve further and strengthen his soul. Ding! Soul strength successfully increased to peak God Monarch. After cultivating here for a few years, he finally experienced another breakthrough, raising his soul level to the peak. This was not an easy task, but it was easily accomplished here. It was unknown how long he had cultivated outside to reach this level. He only needed to spend a few years here to successfully break through. It was really easy. After successfully breaking through, he realized that his improvement speed was extremely limited. It was basically very slow. If he wanted to break through, he would need to cultivate for a few hundred years or even 1,000 years before he could break through. It seems like this place is effective, but only for those below God Monarch. It won't work when I am near the breakthrough point. Tianyun wasn't greedy and felt content. At least he could cultivate here and improve his soul strength, which was hard to break through outside. Then he raised his head and looked to the side. He had been here for a few years and saw an endless stream of souls walking forward. The souls didn't stop at all. Sometimes they were fast and sometimes they were slow. Sometimes they were fast and sometimes they were slow. Basically, after one passed, another would pass. Only when one passed would the next pass. It was always in the same order. The souls didn't even look at him. They just walked forward with dull eyes and disappeared into the mysterious house. It's time to go. Tianyun got up, lifted his foot and stepped forward, easily walking to the front. When he stepped on the ground, the previous feeling of depression immediately disappeared without a trace. Ding! Successfully completed the special quest. Break through to the point where you can cross the Forget Sorrow Bridge and find the truth. Obtained 1000 compression EXP, 1000 compression crazy point, 1000 compression proficiency, 10,000 compression sin value. After crossing the Forget Sorrow Bridge, the task was officially completed and he got a lot of rewards. The data points that were about to be used up were quickly replenished. This reward is not bad, but it's a bit monotonous, but it's more practical. Experience rewards were already a common occurrence. Now, he just wanted to see if he could get a special reward, such as a title or some kind of weapon. These were the main points. Immediately, he looked at the house in front of him. It's time to go in and understand the real situation. He thought he couldn't come in this time, but he finally succeeded. Not only did he succeed, but he also got a lot of rewards. Looking around, there was only this small house. There really wasn't anything else. Following him, he lifted his foot and walked inside. After stepping into the house, his eyes suddenly opened up. The outside looks extremely small, but after walking in, The inside is as spacious as a temple. In front of Yi Tianyun, there are 3 large pools. The souls that walked in chose to jump into one of the pools and eventually disappeared completely from his sight. Pools. Yi Tianyun approached and found that there are 3 pictures in these 3 large pools. The first picture is the heaven realm. The second picture is the mortal realm. The third picture is the ghost realm. Reincarnation pool? Yi Tianyun was shocked. Reincarnation has always existed, but he has never seen it as perfect as the 3 realms. These souls will unconsciously choose a place to reincarnate, randomly choose 3 places. They have long lost consciousness, so where they choose to reincarnate depends on their luck. After they came in, they would walk forward. Some of them walked diagonally and went to the heaven realm. Some of them went to the underworld or the mortal realm. Chapter 1367. Reincarnation had always been very mysterious, and no one could control it. Therefore, people had to wait for their memories to be awakened before they knew what was going on. As for which deity realm they would be reincarnated into and which race they would be reincarnated into, it was completely random. That was why Heavenly Venerate Killer God chose to possess a body instead of reincarnating. First of all, the bloodline was not fixed, and they might be reincarnated into a body with an extremely weak physique. At that time, not to mention awakening their memories, it would be good for them to be alive. But now, it was different here. It was completely fixed. The reincarnation area was in the 3 realms, and they did not wander around. Even he was stunned by this phenomenon. Although he had guessed this before he came in, he was still shocked when he saw it for himself. This really shocked him. Things that were impossible in the outside world could be done here. It looked so perfect without any loopholes. He watched from the side. After these souls jumped into the reincarnation pool, they were quickly born and eventually became babies. This scene could be seen from the reincarnation pool, and he could see everything outside. Since he did not have any memories, everything was the same. If I jump down, won't I be able to reincarnate? Yi Tianyun thought that if he kept his memories and jumped down from here, he would be able to reincarnate successfully, which was even more effective than possessing a body. As long as he kept his memories and started cultivating from a young age, he would undoubtedly win at the starting line. However, he could not choose which family he would be born into. It was still random and not fixed. Even so, this was already very amazing. Shortly after, he raised his head and looked in front of him. There was a stone slab in front of him, and it was densely packed with information. After he saw some of the information, he was immediately stunned. This information was very simple and crude. Those with cultivation higher than the Saint King stage cannot be reincarnated here. Moreover, those who were not born in the 3 realms deity realm could not be reincarnated here. These 2 rules, the first of which was the simplest and crudest, destroyed Yi Tianyun's previous idea. It meant that those who had broken through to the Saint King stage or above, which was the Star Venerate level, could not be reincarnated here. Seems like it's not that perfect. It hasn't reached a heaven-defying level and can reincarnate at will. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He thought that everything would be perfect. No matter how strong he was, he would be invincible here. Not to mention reincarnation, just the problem of death was no longer a worry. The dead would come in as souls and be reborn. As long as he kept his memories, there wouldn't be any problems. At the very least, he wouldn't die. Even if his talent wasn't as good, he would still be alive. But now it seemed that he had been too naive. Even someone as powerful as a 9th-grade divine engraving master couldn't do this. However, being able to reincarnate within the Saint King stage was already quite amazing. The densely packed divine seals on the ground spread out in all directions and enveloped the entire area. At the same time, the reincarnation pool was constantly absorbing energy. That was the only way to maintain the reincarnation pool. Without energy, it would have shut down a long time ago. Other than that, the side was empty. There was only an entrance in front of them, but no one knew where it led to. I don't know what other secrets there are in front of me. Yi Tianyun walked directly forward and soon entered the passage. As Lee Tianyun walked into the passage, he saw a variety of images on the walls. Every corner of the three realms was presented on the wall, and it was constantly changing. This place was like a place to observe the outside world. Everything outside could be seen in one's eyes. Is this an observation room? Lee Tianyun walked over and reached out to touch the wall. When he just touched the wall, he found that his arm passed through the wall and penetrated to another area. Can I pass through? He was shocked and stretched his head forward, and then easily passed through the wall and came to the scene that matched the picture. Here is a snowy mountain area, which is the location where Jade Palace was originally located, and it is still snowing here. The original address of Jade Palace is still there, and it has been renovated, but now it's not inhabited, and it's used for sightseeing. In fact, it is regarded as a historical site, as a kind of memorial, to commemorate the development of the Heavenly Clouds Empire from this scale step by step. From time to time, cultivators come to visit as a tourist spot, and at the same time, explain various historical events at that time, which amazed them. Master, was Heavenly Cloud's great emperor that strong at that time? Yes, he was very strong. At that time, he turned the tide and saved the entire Jade Palace. Otherwise, Jade Palace would have been completely destroyed. I will surpass Heavenly Cloud's great emperor and become a stronger existence. Shoo, don't talk nonsense. If you are heard, you will be beheaded. Master, this is not a display of impoliteness, but a display of respect. I want to be stronger, like Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, to protect the three realms. If I don't surpass Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, what's the point? I think Heavenly Cloud's great emperor must want more powerhouses to appear to protect the three realms and rule the great god realm. The disciple's tone was excited, and his eyes were full of worship, but the more worship he has, the more he wants to surpass. Smith. Enough, these words are not wrong, but it's better not to talk nonsense. The master patted the disciple's small head, motioning him not to talk nonsense. His companions next to him looked at him with reproachful eyes, motioning him not to talk nonsense, lest he will be implicated. Now Lee Tianyun is the existence of God, they dare not blaspheme him even half a word. This young man dared to talk like this, he must be tired of living. Interesting. Lee Tianyun looked at the situation here from the sky, paying more attention to the situation of this kid. This bold kid's cultivation is not high, only spirit refinement realm, but he is about 10 years old, which is a good talent. However, what he admired was that courage and insight. One had to learn to surpass others and not be willing to stay at the bottom. He wants more powerhouses to appear, not afraid to surpass him, so he chose not to break through so fast. Moreover, who can match his speed of breakthrough? Yes, when things are over, it's time to choose a disciple. He hasn't recruited disciples yet, but now it seems that it's time to recruit some disciples. As a direct disciple, there is no doubt that they can do things for him and protect the three realms. Immediately he retracted his head, everything is fine, no one found him. In fact, no one will find him at all, looking up from below, they will see nothing. Chapter 1368. A personal disciple could be said to be necessary, but it could also be said to be unnecessary. It all depended on one's own choice. Lee Tianyun had a body full of treasures, but he had no way of imparting them. Even Lee Sishue and Shi Shueyun couldn't do so, mainly because they weren't suitable. He needed a disciple who was suitable to cultivate the martial arts that he taught. Only then would he be able to impart them. The benefit of this was that he would have a loyal disciple and a super expert. He didn't have much, but he had a lot of resources. Nurturing a disciple would be extremely fast, and he just had to throw resources at it. High-grade heaven path martial arts weren't a problem. However, he couldn't find one that fit his requirements. He had to pay attention to the balance of the 5 elements, and he had to be like him, an existence that cultivated 10 refinements of the Earth Monarch. Let's talk about this in the future. This kid is quite interesting. Lee Tianyun was quite interested in this brave kid. This courage and insight was enough to make him interested in taking him in as a disciple. Maybe taking him in as an in-name disciple wouldn't be a bad idea either. He didn't need an outstanding talent, but absolute loyalty. If there wasn't even loyalty, how could he impart his teachings? After that was hard work and diligence, and finally talent. Those without talent might have limited achievements in the later stages, but he didn't need all of his disciples to be top-notch. This type of disciple didn't have to play the role of surpassing him or being a super genius. He just had to be loyal and steady. Usually, he could still participate in the discussion of big matters. Soon after, he turned his gaze back to the wall. As he looked at it, the scenery around him changed in different ways. Everything was fine, and everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. In the few years that he wasn't around, everything was stable and united. Normally, nothing would happen unless he offended an enemy. Only then would he attract a fatal disaster. Now that he had offended an enemy, who would know that he was the culprit? Especially the death of celestial venerable Godslayer, no one would suspect him. How could a first-grade god realm kill celestial venerable Godslayer? As he walked, the path was really long. The main thing was that this was like flattening the three realms, turning it into a long corridor. He could observe everything along the way, taking in all the details. Therefore, this corridor seemed rather long. Yi Tianyun's walking speed was considered fast. At the same time, he kept looking around. When one's cultivation reaches a certain level, they no longer need this kind of observation room. Looks like this is a place for strolling. When one's cultivation broke through to the Earth Monarch realm, one's spiritual awareness would be able to explore any corner at will. It was no different from looking with one's eyes. However, Yi Tianyun reckoned that it was just his hobby, and he couldn't control it. Soon, he saw the exit in front of him. He sped up and passed through the corridor in one breath, entering the exit. After getting out, Chen Feng's vision suddenly opened up. The first thing he saw was a 5-element sphere of light spinning before him, releasing energy continuously. 5 elements core, 6th grade core, belongs to the super core type, extremely rare. It was a super core that had fused the 5 elements together, and its power was astonishing. This was the supreme power of the 5 elements. 6th grade core, 5 elements supreme power? Yi Tianyun sucked in a breath of cold air. It was fine that it was a 6th grade core, but it was a core that fused the 5 elements together. Not only was it rare, it was simply unprecedented. It was still possible to see a single element core, but now that there was a fusion of multiple elements, that was really unprecedented. He didn't expect that the place he came to was actually where one of the cores was located. At this moment, he thought of the other 2 cores. Were they the 5 elements core? At least this one was the 5 elements core. Now, wouldn't he be able to absorb it into his body like crazy, increase the fusion of energy in his body, and also form a 5 elements core? Now, he had the metal, water, and wood attributes. The thunder attribute was not counted as one of the 5 elements. This meant that if he absorbed it, he would be able to replenish the energy of the other 3 attributes. This is too crazy. The 5 elements fused into a core. Yi Tianyun felt the surging energy. It was probably something that even a heavenly venerable couldn't compare to. At the same time, he didn't dare to go near. If he went near casually, just the energy fluctuations alone would probably be able to turn his soul into ashes. Then he observed his surroundings. There was nothing here except for the 5 elements core. As for the other places, there were no other entrances. The back area of the 5 elements core was a dead end. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Absorb this 5 elements core and you will become the true controller of the mortal realm. At the same time, open the other 2 trial paths. At this moment, a line of words appeared in the void, causing Yi Tianyun below to be stunned. He didn't expect this to be a trial mission. Absorbing the 5 elements core would allow him to become the controller of the mortal realm. Ding. Successfully accepted the special mission, become the controller of the mortal realm. Upon completion of the mission, you will receive the title, Controller of the Mortal Realm. You will be able to activate the strongest effect of the mortal realm. As for the other rewards, none. The true controller of the mortal realm? There's such a thing? Yi Tianyun was taken aback. With his strength, how could he not be considered the true controller? When he saw the 5 elements core, He knew that the true controller was the controller of this 5 elements core. The 5 elements core represented the power of the mortal realm. The key was that there was no reward. This made Yi Tianyun speechless. After completing this kind of mission, he didn't even have any experience points, and he just received a title? However, he didn't think too much about it. Even if he received this simple reward, he felt that it must be because the reward was so amazing that it wouldn't come with other rewards. The true controller of the mortal realm? Looks like I have to give it a try. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He immediately sat down to meditate and began to absorb the energy from the 5 elements core. If he could absorb it, he would be able to condense 2 more planets in his body. This way, he would meet the requirements of the previous mission, which was to break through to the Heavenly Lord level, which required 5 planets. If he were to absorb it now, wouldn't he have 2 more planets? He didn't stop for a second and immediately began to absorb it madly, guiding the energy out bit by bit. After absorbing it into his body, after a period of buffering, he immediately began to condense 2 cores of energy. One was of the earth attribute, and the other was of the fire attribute. To be able to condense 2 cores in one go was really unprecedented. I wonder what kind of power I would have after successfully absorbing it and becoming a true controller. Chapter 1369. The rest of Yi Tianyun's time was spent crazily absorbing the energy of the 6th grade 5-element core. It could be said that he had picked up an invincible treasure. This sort of treasure was already at the upper Empyrean spirit treasure level, perhaps even more precious. A 6th grade core was already amazing enough. Now with the addition of a 5-element core, the effects were even more amazing. Yi Tianyun deeply sighed. Just what sort of divine being was able to create the 3 realms? Just what sort of heaven-defying cultivation did they have? He felt that an Empyrean level was already impossible. Only someone above the Empyrean level could create such an amazing 3 realms. The truth was that just a 9th grade divine inscriber was enough to show that their cultivation was far beyond the Empyrean level, but an even higher level. But how amazing was an even higher level? He couldn't imagine this, but there was one thing he knew. It was absolutely heaven-defying. Slapping an Empyrean to death with a single slap was as simple as that. He believed that he could find the answer he needed in the 4th grade God realm. As time passed, 2 cores rapidly condensed within his body. Because these were the 5-element cores, all the other attribute energies surged towards him and into the other planets. This wasn't a big problem. It was the same as absorbing more energy and continuing to strengthen the size of the planets. If he didn't have a single attribute planet, then he would be condensing 5 at once. This was truly amazing. Even so, it was impossible for him to come in without condensing any planets. If he didn't have planet energy in his body, then he wouldn't even be able to make a breakthrough. If he couldn't make a breakthrough, then there was no need to even think about coming here. Time passed year by year. The 3 realms God realm rapidly developed. Under the management of Shi Shuiyun and the others, everything was operating at an extremely fast pace. Their cultivations rose by leaps and bounds and resources were poured in. In addition, they expanded their influence, picked spirit herbs, and hunted monster beasts. All of these were given out as rewards. As for the other influences, there were basically no influences that came looking for him. Those that came looking for him had already been found. Those that didn't come looking for him wouldn't come looking for him. Of course, those that came looking for him were all decided by Shi Shuiyun. There was no need for Yi Tianyun to personally decide. In the blink of an eye, 50 years passed. Tianyun had been cultivating and condensing for 50 years. This was the first time he had absorbed for such a long time, mainly because the absorption speed was too slow. The energies of the 5 elemental cores were too condensed. Trying to absorb even a strand of energy was like a tug of war. It was extremely difficult. It was so stable that it was difficult for him to absorb it. However, no matter how difficult it was, he still had to absorb it. After all, he had plenty of time and had nothing to do for the time being. Especially since this was equivalent to cultivation, it was just a side effect. After condensing for 50 years, the planets in his body finally formed. The 5 major planets rotated in his body, continuously releasing all kinds of energy and filling his body. This was not the end. The 5 planets had to be gathered together to form a huge 5-element core. Only then would it be considered complete. If that was not the case, then it could only be judged as a failure. Just condensing 5 planets couldn't be considered a success at all. It could only be considered a foundation. It's about to condense into one. I can only succeed. If I fail, Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. It was extremely difficult to gather 5 planets together. If he failed, his body would explode and he would die. If he succeeded, not only would he be able to complete the mission, but he would also become the true ruler of the mortal world. Boom! Accompanied by a loud boom, the 5 planets collided and produced an earth-shattering sound. The 5 planets directly exploded and turned into piles of rubble. Yi Tianyun also felt as if he had suffered a heavy blow. All sorts of sounds rang in his head and he almost fainted. Defend your beer. Yi Tianyun guarded his beer to prevent himself from losing consciousness. Once he lost consciousness, he would be dead. Even if he had a life to use, he didn't want to experience that kind of death. Moreover, this kind of thing needed to be successful in one go. If he failed, even if he came back to life, it would be very difficult to condense it again. While maintaining a clear state, he condensed the countless rubble again. The dissipating energy in the surroundings was quickly gathered by him. Following that, countless rubble began to condense from all directions, piecing together bit by bit, forming a huge planet. This also required a very long time to condense and take shape. But according to this pace, the time needed was not short. The real key was still the constantly dissipating energy. If it was too late, the energy would disperse and it would be difficult to condense successfully. Without the energy to assist in condensing, how could it succeed? It could be said that Yi Tianyun was racing against time. He began to speed up the condensing, but the speed was still too slow. This was like a huge house. Eventually, it might be possible to build a house with bricks stacked one by one, but the speed was too slow. This might require a lot of time. By the time he completed it, everything would have failed. Too slow, too slow. Cold sweat dripped from Yi Tianyun's forehead. He didn't expect the condensing speed to be so slow. This meant that if this continued, he would definitely fail. 5 planets were really too many. This was like building a small house. Perhaps one person could do it faster. But what if he built a castle? Just one person wouldn't be able to keep up with the speed. I wonder if crazy mode can increase the speed? He didn't think too much and immediately used crazy mode. The energy in his body was quickly stimulated to the fastest speed, directly stacking up to 128 times the speed. The planet energy circulating in his body began to circulate at a crazy speed. Dong dong dong. Pieces of meteorites collided together crazily and condensed to form a small half of a planet. In just the blink of an eye, he had successfully condensed a small half of a planet. The speed was much faster. Compared to before, the speed was 128 times faster. How could it not be fast? This was a little beyond Yi Tianyun's expectations. He just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect it to really succeed. The condensing speed had increased by 128 times. It was really incredible. Based on this speed, it won't take too long to successfully condense. Yi Tianyun was pleasantly surprised. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the huge planet began to condense, emitting colorful light. Based on the current situation, it would take at most a few days to condense successfully. It wouldn't take too long. With this, the worry in his heart was immediately relieved. He didn't need to worry about the condensing failure, which would lead to problems. It's a pity that this crazy mode can't be used to absorb energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't take so long. Chapter 1370. The crazily condensed planets were quickly pieced together, forming a huge planet. This huge planet shone with 5-colored light. The environment inside was not a monotonous 5-colored world. Instead, it had turned into a real world with life, full of mountains and rivers. Actually, it was not difficult to condense mountains and rivers. The key was that the mountains and rivers in this planet were filled with the power of the 5 elements. Unlike other planets, which looked like they had all kinds of mountains and rivers, the attributes inside were actually very simple. To put it bluntly, it was beautiful. The real inside was not like the real world outside, which had all kinds of energy. Now that he had condensed this planet, it was like the real world outside. It seemed like it could even condense life. Of course, it was just a feeling. It was too difficult to actually condense it. However, it was not a problem for many living beings to cultivate inside. The environment here was very good, many times better than the outside world. Under the crazy acceleration mode, it did not take more than a few days for the planets in his body to condense successfully, forming an extremely huge planet. However, it was not the size of the previous 5 planets put together. Instead, it became smaller. Logically speaking, the accumulated energy of the 5 planets should be larger. Now, it became smaller, but it condensed more terrifying energy. It was much more solid than before, and its grade had even shot up to rank 6 in one go. Absorbing the rank 6 energy from the outside world could naturally increase the power of the core in his body to the rank 6 level. It could not possibly decrease, right? I finally succeeded. Is this the planet condensed by the 5 elements? Tianyun was excited. He could clearly feel the energy in his body had greatly increased. His cultivation did not change, but his cohesion had greatly increased. If he could unleash the power of the 5 elements in his body, it would definitely be far more effective than before. The key was that he had succeeded. He had successfully completed this mission. He had successfully completed it before the start of the Divine Territory battle. Immediately, he stood up and walked toward the 5 elements. At this time, he did not feel any sense of danger. After all, the 5 elements had already been assimilated. It was impossible for him to completely absorb the 5 elements, but it was not a problem for him to be recognized. After being acknowledged, he would be able to pass this trial. He wouldn't have to completely suck the 5 elemental cores dry. To achieve this step, his current cultivation was still far from enough. If his original cultivation was a little stronger, perhaps the condensation speed would have increased a lot. Fortunately, he had crazy mode to make up for it. Otherwise, it would have ended in failure. This was a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, it would really be troublesome. Congratulations on completing the 5 elements core trial. You have become the true ruler of the mortal world. At this moment, a beam of golden light enveloped him. At the same time, a mark appeared in the void and was branded on his forehead. This brand disappeared in the blink of an eye, as if nothing had appeared on it. Following that, a surge of memories surged into his mind, causing him to close his eyes and carefully comprehend the contents within. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes. So the mortal realm is actually so frightening. This level of power can't even be considered mortal. This memory was telling him how to activate the power of the mortal realm. As for the details, he didn't say anything. He didn't even mention anything about the reincarnation pool or other miscellaneous matters. It was clear that even if he obtained the 5 elemental core trial, he still wouldn't be able to obtain the truth. Ding! You have successfully completed the special mission, become the Mortal World Controller. You have obtained the title Mortal World Controller. You will be able to activate the strongest effect of the mortal world. The rest of the rewards, nothing. Mortal World Controller has absolute control over the mortal realm, can control the souls of the mortal realm at will, can go to any region to reincarnate or reconstruct the body. At the same time, can control the power of the 5 elements core to counterattack. Control the soul to reincarnate? Tianyun thought that it would be very powerful, but it turned out that there was a special effect that could control the soul to reincarnate to any region in the 3 realms. Currently, it was up to him to control. But it didn't mean much, because those who surpassed the Saint King stage could not reincarnate, so it didn't mean much to him. Unless this limit was raised to a higher level, then it would have a little meaning. But there was another effect that was really amazing, and that was to reconstruct the body. This meant that those who were in the Saint King stage and below could reconstruct the body at will. Even he was shocked by this point. This was the only way to show how powerful a title was. I hope the effect will increase in the future. If that's the case, I will really become an army of the undead. Lee Tianyun thought of that scene and was excited. No matter how he died, as long as the soul in the three realms was reconstructed. In the face of such an army, who would dare to act recklessly? But he soon noticed a small line of words at the back. The content was, "For every 1,000 souls reborn, there is a cooldown time of 100 years. I thought it would be infinite rebirth, but it seems that I was too naive. There is still a cooldown time." Lee Tianyun shook his head, but it didn't mean much to him for the time being. Those whose cultivation was too low basically didn't need to participate in the battle, so there wouldn't be too much danger. But it was better than nothing. Maybe it would be useful in the future. Rumble. At this time, the sound of the door opening came from the front, attracting his attention. On the back of the 5 elements core, 2 big channels were opened, and 2 forces rushed out. One of them was full of light, and the other was full of cold, 2 completely different forces. The power of light and dark? Lee Tianyun's eyes narrowed. He immediately felt what the other 2 trials were. There is no doubt that one of them should be the light core, and the other should be the dark core. These are 2 super rare cores, and they can combine to form the strongest existence. He didn't expect such a rare core to be dug out and placed in the 3 realms. Heaven represented the light core, the mortal world represented the 5 elements core, and the underworld represented the dark core. No matter which core, they were all super rare existences. If one had all of them, he would be an invincible existence. The premise was that he could control all of them. If he could control them, he would definitely become a super overlord. Too powerful. The more I understand, the more terrifying I feel. Seems like this is the treasure left behind by that almighty being. Lee Tianyun's eyes were filled with excitement. He hadn't seen such a shocking treasure in a long time. When he obtained the 5 elements core and found out about its power, he was already shocked. What if he could control all of them? What kind of power would it reach? Chapter 1371. Lee Tianyun walked to the back of the core. If it was before, he wouldn't have been able to get close at all. If he got close, his soul would be destroyed by the violent energy. Even if he didn't die, he would become an idiot. Now that he was one, he could pass through the core and come to the back. When he came to the back, the feeling was even stronger. The energy of light and darkness was constantly being released from the front. When he got close, he felt a sense of pressure coming from the front. It made him feel pressured and it was hard to move forward. There's no way to get in, Lee Tianyun frowned. He thought that he could pass 2 trials in one go. It seemed like he was too naive. The trial ahead was even more terrifying. When the energy was released, Lee Tianyun felt like his skin was disappearing. If he continued to enter, there was no doubt that his soul would be destroyed. The energy ahead was too strong. It wasn't something he could advance with his current standard. Successfully accepted the special mission, Pass Trial of Light or Dark. Successfully completed the mission and obtained the title Heaven Realm Controller or Netherworld Controller. The rewards were the same. There weren't any changes. He didn't even get any extra experience points. The mission is split into 2. It seems like I have to complete 2 more to become the real owner of this place. Lee Tianyun wasn't surprised. As mentioned before, after absorbing this place, he could only be considered as the Mortal Realm Controller. This meant that there was still the title of Heaven Realm Controller or Netherworld Controller. If that was the case, then there would be 2 trials. Now that he couldn't participate in them, he had to raise his cultivation base to continue. It seemed like he could only give up now. It's about time to leave. Lee Tianyun didn't stay here for long. He stepped into the special teleportation circle and disappeared from the area. Shortly after, his soul returned to his body. Nothing seemed to have changed. Finally back to my own body. It's still the most comfortable to stay in my own body. Lee Tianyun twisted his body and loosened his bones. This body seemed to be meditating here. It looked like his soul had left his body, but in reality, it was still connected and not truly separated. However, he felt that he could enter that place with his physical body. It was just that he didn't have the authority to enter. Shortly after, his figure flashed and he returned to his hall. Sure, Shuayun happened to be here dealing with some matters. When she saw him appear, her beautiful eyes were filled with reproach. Finally willing to come back? This is the longest time you have been away in history. He had been gone for more than 50 years. It had never been so long in the past. I've been cultivating in seclusion for a long time. My apologies. Yi Tianyun walked over with a smile. Sure, Shuayun was just grumbling casually. It was nothing much. As long as Yi Tianyun was safe, that was enough for her. After all, with their cultivation, 50 years was basically equivalent to 5 days. It was not a long time. Forget it. Right now, the situation in the Three Realms God realm is steadily improving. Most cultivators' cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds. There are more than 30 Earth Monarchs. There are more than 10 Lord of Heaven realm cultivators. As for Star Venerates, there are. Yi Tianyun nodded. After hearing about it, his cultivation had indeed improved by leaps and bounds. His overall strength was already comparable to a Grade 2 God realm. Furthermore, he had reached this level in a short 50 years. Of course, there was still a long way to go before he could reach the higher end of a Grade 2 God realm. However, with Yi Tianyun present, this gap would be filled immediately. With an existence comparable to a Heavenly Venerate, he was already stronger than most Grade 2 God realms. However, Grade 2 God realms usually had Grade 3 God realms as their backing. In theory, they were still inferior. Seems like your overall breakthrough is not bad? Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. After a while, your overall strength will definitely be comparable to a Grade 2 God realm. Right? We have abundant resources, and we are very proactive in our cultivation. We all responded to your call and cultivated fervently. This result is somewhat unexpected. Everyone's cultivation is breaking through very quickly. Sure, Shuayun was also a little excited. Seeing her own faction growing stronger, she naturally felt excited and full of confidence. Very good. In that case, I will continue refining pills and speed up my progress. Yi Tianyun nodded. Now that most of the things were done, all that was left was to wait for the battle of the divine realms. Sure, Shuayun nodded and continued with her work. Tianyun also began to busy himself with alchemy and immersed himself in alchemy. There were alchemists in the Three Realms, but their refining speed was limited. In addition, there were many cultivators, so there was a relatively large gap. Otherwise, Yi Tianyun would not have spent time refining pills. Time passed quickly. Yi Tianyun was completely focused on refining pills. During this time, the other god realms quieted down. There was no communication at all. Everyone was busy. In fact, there were still a few decades before the battle of the divine realms. The situation was still relatively urgent. Whether or not it would affect the Three Realms, they had to be prepared. The news he received from various sources was the same. The god realms were all making their own preparations. Among them, the god realms that allied with the Three Realms all sent envoys to discuss the situation. It was relatively simple. When the battle of the divine realms happened, they hoped that they could help each other. If there was a problem with one side, they hoped that they could find a place to hide. They did not have extravagant hopes of helping them resist, just a place to hide. If they resisted, who could resist the battle of Grade 3 God realms? They could only hide without any resistance. The atmosphere is getting heavier. It's about time to head over to the Heavenly Spring God realm and inform Sister Lu Li of the situation. Yi Tianyun had promised Lu Li Region Master not to join a Grade 3 God realm. He did not break his promise and directly participated in the battle of the divine realms. There was no connection between the two. Back then, Lu Li Region Master did not expect that Yi Tianyun would participate in the battle of the divine realms. She only advised him not to join a Grade 3 God realm. After refining a batch of elixirs and giving instructions, he went to the Heavenly Spring God realm to look for Lu Li Region Master. The Heavenly Spring God realm was also strengthening in all aspects. Most of the disciples had returned from outside and could not go out anymore. Heavenly Cloud Region Master, you are finally back. We have been looking for you for a long time. Lord Region Master said that all elders and disciples must come back. Elder Go Huang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yi Tianyun return. Where is Lu Li Region Master? I have something important to discuss with her, Yi Tianyun asked. What is it? I was just about to have a meeting. It's perfect that you are back. We can discuss it together. Elder Go Huang did not know the purpose of Yi Tianyun's return. He thought that Yi Tianyun had returned from training. Chapter 1372. Yi Tianyun, Elder Go Huang, and the rest entered the meeting room. Region Lord Glaze had been waiting for a long time. When she saw Yi Tianyun enter, she smiled faintly. You're back. Region Lord Glaze smiled faintly. Yes, I'm back. Yi Tianyun exchanged a smile with her. There was no need for words. Simple eye contact was enough. Then they quickly made arrangements. After all the elders had taken their seats, Region Lord Glaze looked at them and said in a low voice, It's actually very simple to gather all the elders here. I believe that everyone has heard the rumors, right? In less than 50 years, the Battle of God's Domain will officially begin. All the elders nodded, indicating that they already knew. This news spread like wildfire. Other than Fan Yu's forces, almost all the forces in the Divine Domain knew about it. This was not the first time the Divine Domain War was held. Therefore, every time it was about to begin, everyone was worried that they would be implicated. Those who were more timid would directly hide in the ordinary realm. It was undoubtedly safer there. Since everyone knows, I have nothing more to say. Basically, all the disciples and elders are not allowed to go out during this period of time. All of them are to stay here and prepare. For example, in terms of defense, we must be fully prepared. Resistance and the like must be done. What we are facing is not the attack of a grade 3 god realm, nor are we defending against them. We are the lackeys of a grade 3 god realm, the grade 2 god realm. Region Lord Glaze said in a low voice, What we need to guard against are these grade 2 god realms. We are not relying on any grade 3 forces. Recently, there have been many grade 3 forces trying to recruit us, but I rejected them all. If we agree, it means that we are betting on them. Once they are destroyed, we will be the ones to suffer. It can even be said that when the Divine Domain War starts, as their subordinates, we will be easily attacked. Choosing a team was very important. Once they chose the wrong team, it would be troublesome. Therefore, until now, the Heavenly Spring Divine Domain had not joined any grade 3 god realms. Similarly, not choosing a team would also attract all kinds of trouble. That was, all kinds of methods used by the grade 3 god realms to make things difficult or force them. The further he went, the stronger the coercion became. It was almost time for the Divine Realm War. They needed more powerhouses and more troops. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to win this war. We support Region Lord Glaze's idea. Randomly joining a grade 3 god realm has never led to a good end, one of the elders chimed in. The other elders nodded in agreement. In the past wars of the Divine Realm, it had never been a good thing. The ones who suffered were always the weaker influences. Hence, during this period of time, we need to strengthen our defenses and make breakthroughs in our strength in order to stabilize the upcoming Divine Domain War. If we can stabilize ourselves, then in the future we will also have a chance to participate in the Divine Realm War. They weren't afraid of death and also wanted to participate in the Divine Realm War. But with their qualifications, they simply weren't qualified enough. When they reached grade 3 God Realm, they would be able to participate in the God Realm battle. For a grade 3 God Realm expert, this battle was a battle for honor. Pa pa pa. At this time, the sound of applause came from the gate. Everyone turned their heads and saw an unfamiliar face standing at their door. Many people didn't even notice when this person had come in. Yi Tianyun knew, but he didn't act immediately. Instead, he observed what the other party wanted to do. Well said. I roughly understand your intention to participate in the Divine Realm War. Divine Lord Yi Long stood out and sneered. However, I don't have that many choices for you. Either be destroyed now, or join our Sacred Peak God Realm. Sacred Peak God Realm. Yi Tianyun's gaze turned cold. He immediately recalled that a long time ago, when the divine beast of the starfield came to capture people, it was actually from the sacred peak god realm. This was all told to him by the divine Emperor Yu Qin. After such a long time, what exactly had happened to the divine Emperor Yu Qin? The divine Emperor Yu Qin had helped him a lot in the past, but he had always been under their control, unable to break free. He was probably still in the sacred peak god realm, serving this disgusting sacred peak god realm. But now, the sacred peak god realm couldn't sit still and directly came to threaten him. Isn't your sacred peak divine realm too arrogant? Do you think the other god realms don't exist? Colored Glaze Region Master stood up. The aura of a heavenly venerable pressed over, causing Divine Lord Yi Long to stagger and almost fall to the ground. Colored Glaze Region Master had successfully broken through to the heavenly venerable realm, becoming a trump card. With a heavenly venerable present, he could indeed protect a god realm existence. Congratulations, Colored Glaze Region Master. The elders were overjoyed. They didn't know that Colored Glaze Region Master had already broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. This way, the heavenly spring god realm would have more confidence. Yi Tianyun smiled. He already knew. Colored Glaze Region Master breaking through to the heavenly venerable realm was a sure thing. Indeed, after cultivating for a while, he had successfully broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. Heavenly venerable? Divine Lord Yi Long's face darkened. He hadn't expected there to be a heavenly venerable here. However, he was still extremely arrogant. Even so, I have just broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. I can't protect the heavenly spring god realm. Plus, you have a heavenly venerable, but we don't. At this time, a black shadow slowly appeared at the side, appearing in front of everyone without anyone noticing. An extremely strong pressure emitted from his body, spreading in all directions. In the entire conference hall, the elders felt a sense of helplessness. This helplessness was the feeling of futility in struggling. No matter how they struggled, it was useless. Divine Lord cultivation was strong, but facing a heavenly venerable, it was trash. Colored Glaze Region Master's face changed slightly. The opponent was actually at the middle stage heavenly venerable realm. He was much stronger than her, who had just broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. The two of them couldn't be compared. Elder Shihong, I'll leave this place to you. Divine Lord Yi Long's face was full of regret. He had thought that Elder Shihong wouldn't need to take action, but now it seemed that he had thought too much. Okay. Heavenly Venerable Shihong stood up and said indifferently, it seems that you still have some confidence. It's a little beyond my expectations. No wonder you rejected the recruitment from other god realms. With a Heavenly Venerable, you do have some confidence. However, this confidence seems insignificant in front of us. I don't like to talk nonsense. I'll repeat what Divine Lord Yi Long said just now. Either be destroyed or surrender. We aren't afraid of the other god realms. Our sacred peak god realm is the strongest god realm in this god realm battle. We have never been afraid of anyone. Chapter 1373. Heavenly Venerate Shihong's words made the faces of all the elders sink. One had to admit that the sacred peak god domain was indeed domineering. Among the many grade 3 god domains, it could be considered one of the strongest. It even had a divine beast of the star field, which proved that it was not simple. Unless it was an extremely powerful god domain, it was impossible to possess a divine beast of the star domain. As for being afraid of the other divine regions, it wasn't a problem for Heavenly Venerate Shihong. In any case, they would have to fight sooner or later. It wouldn't be a problem for them to fall out with the other divine territories. What Region Master Colored Glaze said was that the other god realms also had their eyes on this place. If they were to force their way in, it would be equivalent to not giving them face. They didn't use force, so why did the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm use force? If the other divine realms didn't act forcefully, they would dare to act forcefully. The main thing was that they had the strength to crush and resist everything. The Sacred Peak Celestial Territory did have such strength, and it wasn't Celestial Venerable Shihong's nonsense. A slightly weaker rank, 3/4 would not dare to say that. Since he was so confident, it meant that he had many Empyrean powerhouses. Empyrean powerhouses were the key strength of the divine realm. They were existences that could sweep away all obstacles. Having more Empyreans was the way of the king. This did not mean that a divine realm only needed an Empyrean. Without a steady stream of new bloodlines, it would definitely lead to destruction. There were enough fresh bloodlines and experts in the sacred peak god realm. Moreover, they often went to plunder geniuses, so how could they be weak? In the previous ascending battle, the heavenly spring divine realm had snatched the top 10 places. Just this alone was a huge blow to the heavenly spring divine realm. The sacred peak divine realm is indeed overbearing. You stole our disciple before, and now you're shamelessly threatening us. Region Master Lu Li sneered. I have to say, your sacred peak divine realm is really used to being overbearing. So what if we snatch your disciples? With your abilities, you will only waste the potential of a large number of geniuses. Heavenly Venerable Shihong sneered. He didn't care that the Region Mistress Glaze said that they were thick-skinned. Instead, he retorted. These words were like someone who had picked a good spirit herb and snatched it from you so that you wouldn't waste it. This kind of theory was really strange, and it filled their hearts with anger. Only the sacred peak celestial territory would talk about snatching people in such a dignified manner. They had spent so much money to organize all kinds of divine realm competitions, all for the sake of filtering out new bloodlines. Now, it had been snatched away without any compensation. It was really displeasing. If it weren't for the sacred peak celestial territory strength, the other celestial territories would have joined forces to teach the sacred peak celestial territory a lesson. What a good one. Snatching away our disciple, you're afraid that we'll waste him. Region Lord Glaze was about to explode from anger. Her personality was just like this. She really couldn't stand such things. Today we will choose to refuse. No matter what God's domain comes, we will refuse. If we really force our way through, we'll fight to the end. Even if a grade 3 God Realm expert came to threaten her, she would still resist without fear. The rest of the elders stood straight, similarly unafraid of these grade 3 God Realm masters. From their point of view, they couldn't give up their dignity even if they had to fight to the death. If worst comes to worst, they'll just fight until the last one dies. Even if they can drag the grade 3 God Realm down with them, every last one counts. The reason why the grade 3 God Realms that had tried to recruit Huang Xiaolong did not dare to act recklessly was because they were afraid that the grade 2 God Realms would retaliate. Even if they won, it would be troublesome if something happened at this critical juncture. The battle of the God Realms required strength. If there were any losses, not only would it lower their morale, it would also affect their combat strength. They wouldn't force this kind of unfavorable situation. Heavenly Venerable Shihong narrowed his eyes as he looked at them. After staring at them for a moment, he smiled faintly and said, "Is that so? What if the rest of the elders stand on our side?" Heavenly Venerable Shihong clapped his hands. Very quickly, several elders walked over and stood behind Heavenly Venerable Shihong. Among them were some of the more senior elders. You guys? When Elder Go Huang looked at them, the anger in his heart surged to the point that his eyes were about to spit fire. Betrayers had always been the most disgusting thing to them. But now it had happened to them. 5 to 6 elders had betrayed them, and one of them was the more respected third elder. Region Lord Glaze, I feel that we need to consider everything at length. The overall strength of the sacred peak god realm is very strong. If we can join them or attach ourselves to them, after the battle of the god realms ends, we will naturally become a grade 3 god realm. With the sacred peak god realm as our backing, no one will dare to bully us. The third elder's eyes were filled with coldness. He looked at Region Lord Glaze without a shred of respect. They had already joined the sacred peak god realm and weren't afraid of Region Lord Glaze and the rest. Even if they joined later, they would have an extremely high status and greater authority. How authority was defined would be managed by the sacred peak god realm. Naturally, there was no need to worry. That's right. A wise man submits to circumstances. We can reject the recruitment of other god realms, but the sacred peak god realm is different. We have absolute power. We can basically win this battle of the god realms. Region Lord Glaze, just agree to it. Don't resist pointlessly. That will only make your fate more miserable and cause more casualties. These betrayers kept persuading her. It was difficult for them to break through to a higher level. Choosing to join another god realm was undoubtedly a better choice. By relying on the sacred peak god realm, they would definitely be able to obtain more resources and improve themselves. It was difficult to advance in the heavenly spring god realm and couldn't continue to improve. Swish. A cold light pierced through and sent the third elder flying, pinning him to the wall. Everything happened so quickly and decisively. In the blink of an eye, the third elder was pinned to the wall. This attack was launched by Region Lord Glaze. She didn't say a single word to these betrayers. She immediately used a ruthless move and pinned the third elder to the wall. The blue ribbon in her hand had already turned into a sharp sword and pierced through his body. Trust I. The colored glaze region master fiercely swung the ribbon in her hand, wanting to cut him into two at the waist. Suddenly, a faster figure fiercely slapped the ribbon with a palm. With a bang sound, the ribbon directly exploded into two pieces. At the same time, the elder who was pinned to the wall fell from the sky and smashed onto the ground. The one who attacked was Shi Tianzuan Hong. His face was gloomy. He didn't expect Region Lord Glaze to attack so quickly. He didn't even have time to react. He thought that Region Lord Glaze would be desperate and angry. In the end, she would choose to compromise. Now, it seemed like he was too naive. Region Lord Glaze wouldn't compromise at all. Chapter 1374. Region Master Glaze, it seems like you're really stubborn. Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong's expression was ugly. Even if he looked down on these traitors, they had joined his side. Now that they were almost killed in front of him, how could his expression be good? That's how we deal with traitors. Region Master Glaze's gaze was cold. Don't talk to me about a wise man submits to circumstances. It's all bullshit. Traitors are traitors. Don't think I don't know that you're doing this for your own benefit. You feel that you can't do anything, so you chose to join a third-grade god realm. Do you really think it's for the good of the heavenly spring god realm? Region Master Glaze had a fiery temper. She didn't let anyone off, especially when she said it so bluntly. It made the traitors' faces turn green and white. It was obvious that she had hit the nail on the head. Not only that, but they were also afraid of the sacred peak god realm. They didn't want to die. They wanted to choose a more stable backer. If they made the right bet, they would enjoy amazing treatment after the battle. Region Master Glaze, don't be too stubborn. We have our own thoughts, but it's for the good of the heavenly spring god realm. If we made the right bet, our heavenly spring god realm will soar and enter the third-grade god realm in advance. That's right. Why do you have to do this? The sacred peak god realm is so strong. Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. You even hurt the third elder. They were indignant at Region Master Glaze, feeling that she was stubborn and uncivilized. What a joke. Do you really think that only the sacred peak god realm has a chance? The myriad heaven god realm is also a strong competitor. Don't think I don't know. Compared to the sacred peak god realm, I favor the myriad heaven god realm more. Moreover, they're all masters. Do you really think they'll help us soar? If we're just a subsidiary from the start, I'd still believe you. Maybe they already have representatives from other god realms in their hearts. It definitely won't be us. Those who joined temporarily would definitely not be treated as well as those who joined previously. Dream on if they wanted to become third-grade god realm immediately. In her opinion, they could only be cannon fodder. Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong narrowed his eyes. He was actually shocked. He didn't expect her to be right. Some were hot-headed and immediately joined, but in the end, they were just cannon fodder. The traitorous elder was startled, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that it did make sense. It's impossible for us to abandon you. Moreover, if we want to obtain benefits, we must fight. As long as the battle is over, I will definitely give you the best treatment. We don't care about the myriad heaven celestial region. Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong immediately shouted to prevent the elders from wavering. Moreover, things have already come to this. Your third elder was almost killed. Do you think that even if you give up, the glazed region lord will choose to let you go? Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong sneered incessantly. Once something started, there was no turning back. The elders looked at the heavily injured third elder. The third elder had almost been killed. If they chose to return, they would probably suffer the same fate as the third elder. Traitors always died the worst. Ignore her. Kill them and seize control of this place. The third elder had already crawled up. Fortunately, Celestial Lord Shi Hong had saved him. Otherwise, he would have definitely died. Under the ferocious attacks of a Heavenly Venerable, it wouldn't be fun. Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong ignored his words. Instead, he looked at the glazed region lord and the rest and said, I will give you one last chance. Choose to surrender or choose to die. Don't think that I really don't dare to touch you. A mere Heavenly Venerable is nothing to me. He didn't want to waste a Heavenly Venerable, let alone so many experts. If he used them as cannon fodder, he could kill quite a number of people with a single blast. At this moment, a blood-curdling scream was heard. Everyone quickly turned their heads and saw a figure standing beside the third elder. The figure held a spear in his hand and pierced the third elder's head until it exploded. The person who was so daring in front of a Heavenly Venerable was none other than Yi Tingyun. Unknowingly, he had already arrived in front of the third elder and killed the third elder in an instant. Traitors shouldn't speak so much. Yi Tianyun looked at Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong indifferently. Speaking of which, you stole my words. I really don't care about a mere Heavenly Venerable. His tone was so casual. Even if Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong was a mid-level lower Heavenly Venerable, he really didn't care about him. What third-grade god domain? Have you heard of the evil spirit god domain? Didn't he still destroy them? Their eyes narrowed. Even the glazed region lord didn't know when Yi Tianyun had gone over. She had been thinking of ways to break through the defensive line and kill these traitors. However, Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong blocked in front of her. His spiritual perception was already activated, so her sneak attack didn't succeed like before. Yet, under such circumstances, Yi Tianyun still killed the traitors as though he was in a no-man's land. This was undoubtedly a heavy slap in the face. Who are you? Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong's pores immediately widened, and his eyes were filled with vigilance. To be able to kill someone in front of him, his strength was definitely not simple. Me? I'm the Deputy Region Lord here. Yi Tianyun grinned and said, at the same time, I'm also the Region Lord of another god domain. It just so happens that we will be enemies in the future. If I get rid of you now, things will be much simpler in the future. Not to mention Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong, even the glazed Region Lord and the rest were shocked by Yi Tianyun's words. These words were equivalent to declaring war with the sacred peak god domain. Moreover, it was a declaration of war in the god domain, which meant that they wouldn't rest until one party was dead. The battle of the divine realm was a battle to the death, a battle that would continue until the very last moment. The Region Lord of another god domain? Which god domain? Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong's eyes sank. He wasn't in a hurry to make a move, as he had to clarify everything first. I don't know if you have heard of the name of a new god domain, the Three Realms god domain. I'm the Region Lord there, a Region Lord who is about to participate in the god domain war. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. The Region Lord of the Three Realms god domain? They were instantly stunned. They had indeed heard of this, but a first-grade god domain wasn't eye-catching, so they didn't pay much attention to it. What a joke. A first-grade god domain dares to be arrogant in front of me? That Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong extended his hand and grabbed. Unknowingly, a wave of energy had already enveloped Yi Tianyun's surroundings and slammed towards him. If he was hit, he would definitely become a meat patty. Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong wasn't a fool. How could he not be prepared for such a dangerous enemy? Chapter 1375. Yi Tianyun's five elements power was rather heaven-defying. After he absorbed the five elements core, as long as he knew the other party's attribute, he would immediately release the attribute that countered it, forming a type of attribute suppression. In particular, the grade of the five elements core was 6th grade. Most cultivators' planets were at most 2nd grade or 3rd grade. Against a 6th grade core, it was an all-around suppression. This suppression could be experienced in the data, which was a 50% increase in power. Hence, under this attack, Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong realized that his power was suppressed, and he couldn't release his power. He could have fought with Yi Tianyun, but unfortunately, he was too careless. Who would have thought that a divine monarch-level expert would be able to unleash such a terrifying power? Save me, Heavenly Venerable Siyuan! Heavenly Venerate Shi Hong shouted. However, before his voice could travel out, an even more terrifying power burst forth from within, blasting Heavenly Venerate Shi Hong into a mist of blood. He didn't even have a chance to be reborn. At the same time, Yi Tianyun reached out and took away all the treasures on him, including the Heavenly Venerable spiritual treasure that he didn't have time to use. Ordinary Heavenly Venerables would have Heavenly Venerable spiritual treasures. But Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong didn't even have a chance to use it before he was killed. Ding successfully killed Heavenly Venerable Shi Hong, obtained 80,000 compressed experience points, 1,000 compressed crazy points, 1,000 compressed SPs, obtained Heaven Rainbow Venerable Treasure, Heavenly Venerable Spiritual Treasure, Saint Peak God Realm Information Record, 50 times experience card. Leapfrogging kill, obtained additional 50,000 compressed experience points. This time, the reward for leapfrogging kill was different, as if it depended on his mood. But to him, this was still very satisfactory. It was better than nothing. Swoosh! At this time, a sharp murderous aura descended on Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun didn't hesitate to swing his spear. The five elements core and the crazy damage mode burst out, and the spear shot out violently. Dong! An explosive energy exploded in the hall. Regent Lord Lioli had sharp eyes and quick hands. Actually, when Celestial Venerable Hong shouted, he had already dragged the Elder at the side to hide to the side. At the same time, he activated the thick protective shield and threw out all kinds of treasures. As for the traitorous Elders, they were not so lucky. They were immediately affected by this terrifying power and were sent flying, heavily injured. He wasn't dead, but he was close to it. When the power of 2 Empyrean-level beings erupted, even if they didn't die, they would only be left with a single breath. Pa pa pa. The protective shield on Glazed Region Master's side was constantly being battered by this energy. Faintly, cracks had already appeared, and it was on the verge of shattering. Just as it was about to shatter, the explosion stopped. Right now, the originally luxurious hall had already been reduced to ruins. The guards outside were all affected. Some were dead and some were injured. It was a tragic sight to behold. The power of a Heavenly Venerate erupted here. These people with low cultivation bases simply couldn't withstand it. After the explosion, the two figures bounced away and appeared in everyone's line of sight. There was an unfamiliar figure. Without a doubt, this person was the Heavenly Venerable Si Yuan that Celestial Venerable Hong had just called out. No wonder he was so arrogant. With 2 Heavenly Venerates here, they were basically assured of obtaining a Grade 2 God Realm. Even if there were other Heavenly Venerates present, they wouldn't have to worry. Especially since Heavenly Venerable Si Yuan was a late-stage lower Heavenly Venerable expert, who was much stronger than Regent Lord Lioli. I didn't expect a Regent Lord of a Grade 1 God Realm to have such power. This is really an eye-opener for me. Heavenly Venerable Si Yuan looked like a middle-aged man. His clothes fluttered slightly, revealing the sturdy armor underneath. This wasn't any armor, but a kind of self-protection. Heavenly Venerable Si Yuan was from the demon race. He was a beetle-type demon race. He was covered in thick armor that was incomparably sturdy. It was already equivalent to a Heavenly Venerable spiritual treasure. I knew that there would be helpers hiding at the side. After so long, you finally decided to come out? If the two of you had appeared together, this wouldn't have happened. Tianyun had long sensed that there was a powerhouse hiding at the side, but he hadn't exposed it. He just wanted to see when that fellow would come out. They had done this to leave a backup plan. If anyone tried to escape, Heavenly Venerable Hong would immediately come out and suppress them, creating the effect of surrounding and killing them. Who knew that it would backfire and result in Heavenly Venerable Hong's death? If he had been closer, it wouldn't have been much of a problem for him to rescue him given his strength. Heavenly Venerable Siyuan's heart sank. In fact, he still wanted to fight with Tianyun. However, after the battle just now, he realized that there was no way he could win. If they were to continue fighting, he really wouldn't know who would win. It was even possible that he would die. While he was thinking about what to do, Regent Lord Lioli and the others were really dumbfounded. Putting aside how Tianyun had become the Regent Lord of the Three Realms' sacred realm, just his strength alone was already beyond their imagination. Isn't this Heavenly Cloud Regent Lord too strong? Cutting up a Heavenly Venerable is like cutting tofu. Just now, he even fought with such a powerful Heavenly Venerable without any problems. How did he cultivate? Wasn't the strength he displayed just a half step to Heavenly Venerable? Isn't the difference too big now? These elders were shocked, wondering if their eyes were playing tricks on them. Previously, he wasn't very strong, but now he was as strong as a heaven-defying Heavenly Venerable. He hid his strength. Regent Lord Lioli immediately guessed this. She felt that Tianyun had hidden his strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to reach such a level in just a few decades. Hiding his strength? What's the point? The elders were puzzled. Isn't it the point now? The other party thinks that the Heavenly Cloud Region Lord is too weak. One careless mistake and he will lose his life. Regent Lord Lioli smiled. Now it's interesting. I didn't expect that the Heavenly Springs sacred realm would ultimately be saved by one person. She shook her head. Previously, she had thought that she would nurture Tianyun for a while, and when he slowly broke through, he would then become the successor. Now it seemed that she was too naive. With Tianyun's strength, let alone being a deputy region lord, he was more than qualified to be a region lord. In other words, he wouldn't even be qualified to be a grade 2 region lord. Because Tianyun's words just now proved his ambition, to participate in the battle of the divine realms. They didn't have the guts to participate in the battle of the divine realms, but Tianyun dared to do so, which proved that his strength was definitely not simple. What's wrong? You don't want to fight anymore? Tianyun said indifferently, or, you can choose to inform them about the situation here. If you want to escape, I don't think they will give you that chance. Tianyun grinned. How could he let go of such a fat sheep? Moreover, it was a hostile force. This hostile force also had something to do with the Death God realm and the Evil Spirit realm. Chapter 1376. Other than hiding, Heavenly Venerable Godkiller had descended to help the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm win the battle of the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm. The Evil Spirit Sacred Realm was the same. They all had connections with the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm, and many of their powerhouses held important positions in the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm. Therefore, when the Evil Spirit Sacred Realm was destroyed, they went crazy and kept searching for the culprit. At first, they thought it was Heavenly Venerable Godkiller's doing and even went to the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm to take revenge. Who knew that in the end, the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm would suffer even more. Their wishes were denied and their people died. Therefore, the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm could be so arrogant mainly because they had the support of many sacred realms. Some had chosen to join the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm early on. It could be said that it was a mixed sacred realm with all kinds of forces. This way, when they snatched the token core, they could all go to the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm. Because it was so mixed, the forces there were quite strong. There were probably more than a dozen Heavenly Venerables, definitely ahead of the other sacred realms. Some of them could not participate in the snatching of the token core. Just like Heavenly Venerable Swordsea and the others had said, they could not interfere. If they did, they would lose their qualifications. It was completely different for those who had entered the Sacred Peaks Sacred Realm to come down and help. Don't try to challenge the intelligence of the heavens. It would not be wrong. Under such circumstances, the sacred peak sacred realms still had many heavenly venerables. This was the reason for their arrogance. They were not afraid of the myriad heaven sacred realm, much less the other sacred peak sacred realm. If they had the ability, correspondingly, if the heavenly spring sacred realm joined, they would probably not have a chance to enjoy anything. There were so many sacred realms that had helped them, and the benefits would definitely be shared with them. As for the heavenly spring sacred realm, they probably would not even get a drop of soup. When he heard this news, Lee Tianyun memorized these sacred realms one by one. They would become his opponents in the future, so he had to be vigilant. Now that the sacred peak sacred realms heavenly venerables had arrived, he would kill them in advance. He did not want to let the tiger return to the mountain. "You think you can keep me here?" Siyuan Heavenly Lord laughed. He thought that Lee Tianyun was too arrogant. Even if they fought just now, he didn't think that Lee Tianyun could beat him. He had absolute confidence in his strength and defense. Even so, he still took out a jade pendant and fiercely crushed it, sending out the information here. He wasn't afraid of being defeated, but he still had to send some information back first so that they could understand the situation here and discuss countermeasures. At the very least, it was impossible to subdue the heavenly spring divine realm. He had to use forceful methods. "Won't you know once you try?" Tianyun grinned and quickly swung the starry divine spear in his hand. The core power of the 5 elements in his body burst out once again, and the dragon god bloodline was fully unleashed. It was impossible to kill a late-stage lower heavenly venerate powerhouse without expending some effort. Unless his cultivation base was a few levels higher, there were some things that needed to be done. Boom! After erupting, Lee Tianyun's body radiated a powerful aura. Layers of thick scales covered the surface of his body as he charged towards Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan's pupils constricted. He hadn't expected Lee Tianyun to be able to erupt with even greater power. "All out!" Heavenly Venerate Siyuan bellowed. A black shell floated up from his hand. It looked unassuming, but it was actually his exclusive Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure. After the black shell appeared, he immediately put it on his body. Thick armor appeared on his body, and his aura rose by a large margin. This Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure not only increased his defense, but it could also increase his power. In an instant, he really turned into a giant beetle and charged over. Sky-slaying divine art, destroy. Lee Tianyun's eyes flashed as he displayed the martial arts he had fused with the fusion system mode. This extracted the best effect and gathered all the advantages into one body. Its power was directly stacked to a heaven-defying level. However, this wasn't the most important thing. His opponent's attribute was the earth attribute, so the core power of the 5 elements in his body immediately surged out to restrain it. In an instant, the suppression of the attributes was stacked once again. The effect was 50 times. How could this be? Heavenly Venerate Siyuan hadn't even clashed with Lee Tianyun's attack when he felt a power that could annihilate him pressing in all directions. The fear of death welled up in his heart. He hadn't even clashed with Luo Yunyang yet, but he already felt like he had to escape. He also felt like he had no way of resisting. This feeling of being unable to resist was only felt when he was facing an existence at the level of his own master. Run! He didn't think any further. Black wings immediately sprouted from his back as he turned around and fled into the void. However, how could he be faster than Lee Tianyun? A mere beetle wants to escape from my hands? The sky was already filled with destructive power. This was the power of the fusion divine art. The destructive power that filled the sky had already enveloped Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. As it enveloped him, the shell on Heavenly Venerate Siyuan's body began to rapidly disintegrate. Such a hard shell was rapidly disintegrating. This kind of power scared Heavenly Venerate Siyuan out of his wits. Boom! Lee Tianyun's spear arrived. It directly pierced through Heavenly Venerate Siyuan's body and nailed him firmly in the void. Even a Celestial Venerate numinous treasure could be pierced through. Celestial Venerate numinous treasures weren't invincible. They could only maximize their power. If one's power far exceeded theirs, they would lose their effect. This shell is quite hard. I almost couldn't pierce through it, Tianyun said calmly. If you kill me, the sacred peak divine region won't let you off. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan twisted his body, wanting to break free from this attack. However, he realized that he couldn't move. It was no wonder that Celestial Venerate Hong couldn't escape in his previous life. A sealing power had already sealed off all his abilities. How could he escape? This was simply his nemesis. The power of the 5 elements already had an existence that could restrain him. Of course, it was their nemesis. It could be said that apart from the light and dark attributes, he could restrain all other attributes. The 5 elements were just that strong. After absorbing them, he felt that his power had increased tremendously. Crushing a Celestial Venerate was as easy as drinking water. It wasn't that a Celestial Venerate was too weak. It was that he had too many trump cards. I think that even if I don't kill you, the Sacred Peak Divine region will find trouble with me. After all, the previous Celestial Venerate Hong died under my spear. Do you think they will let me off? Tianyun laughed coldly. Moreover, they are competitors in the battle of the divine realms. Will they let me off? With just this bit of ability, you aren't fit to go against the Sacred Peak Divine region. My strength is just one of them. You're dead. Heavenly Venerate Siyuan cursed loudly when he saw that Tianyun wouldn't let him off. Since he was going to die anyway, why not curse to his heart's content? Chapter 1377. Ding. Successfully killed Siyuan Heavenly Venerate. Reward, 110. 000 EXP, 2000 Crazy Point, 2000 SBS. Armored Fiend Bloodline, Rare. Sky Fiend Armor, High-Grade Heavenly Dao. Information Record of the River Basin God Realm. You have successfully killed someone of a higher level. You have gained an additional 50,000 compressed experience points. The reward popped up. Overall, it wasn't bad, just that there wasn't an Empyrean Spirit Treasure. Of course, even if it dropped, it might not be suitable for him to use. Empyrean Spirit Treasures were not like other treasures that required a corresponding ability to be used. Empyrean Spirit Treasures could be said to be very valuable, but it could also be said to be very worthless. Every Empyrean would be able to nurture their own treasures. This was similar to his own abilities. When he broke through to the Empyrean level, he would begin to nurture his treasures. As for what kind of Empyrean Spirit Treasure was born, not only did it depend on one's own ability, but it also depended on one's own materials. The key point was that there was no need for any refining techniques. All that was needed was to nurture it slowly. This was similar to the core energy within one's body. It needed to be nurtured bit by bit before it could finally form an Empyrean Spirit Treasure. Generally speaking, the effect would be the best when used by the user. However, if the attributes were about the same, the effects would still be very powerful. The number of times an Empyrean Spirit Treasure could breed was limited. Each level could only nurture one. This meant that the lower, middle, and upper levels could all nurture one. Every level that produced one was equivalent to an Empyrean Spirit Treasure of that level. Empyrean Death God didn't have an upper Empyrean Spirit Treasure, mainly because it hadn't been born yet. The higher the level of an Empyrean Spirit Treasure, the higher the difficulty of nurturing it. The more, the better. It was better than nothing. Then, he shifted his gaze to Sir God Long. This guy had been rather arrogant previously, but he had been dragged over by Tianyun. What do you want to do? Sir God Long was heavily injured and was firmly restrained by Tianyun. She couldn't move. I don't want to do anything. I just want to ask something. Tianyun didn't waste any words. He grabbed his head and suppressed it with his violent soul force. He immediately began to search his soul. God Lord Long's eyes turned white as her memories were extracted continuously. After a while, Sir God Long was thrown to the side. He had become an idiot. Under such a shocking soul search, how could he not become an idiot? So that's how it is. Tianyun wanted to search for the memories of the Divine Emperor Yuqin. From the looks of it, the Divine Emperor Yuqin was indeed still in the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm and had been working for them. Because of the oath, there was really no way to change it unless the owner of the oath died. Following that, Yi Tianyun raised his hand and got rid of God Lord Yi Long. After cleaning them up, he turned his attention back to the traitors. "I'm done. It's time for those small fries." With a wave of his hand, Tianyun grabbed the traitors who had been sent flying. He didn't kill them. Instead, he kicked them one by one to pull aggro. That way, if they were killed, they would gain experience. "I'll leave these traitors to you." Yi Tianyun clapped his hands. He was very satisfied with his strength. After absorbing the 5 elemental cores and fusing them with his martial arts, he had improved greatly in all aspects. He hadn't broken through in his cultivation, but the improvement in this aspect was quite shocking. It was even more significant than raising his cultivation by 1 or 2 levels. One's own foundation was often the most important. This situation wasn't surprising. On the other hand, the Glaze Region Master and the others were stunned. They had thought that they would have to fight to the death with Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. Who knew that Yi Tianyun would kill a Heavenly Venerate in just a few moves? If he had killed a Heavenly Venerate before, he would have relied on sneak attacks. Now, he had relied on his strength to kill Heavenly Venerate Siyuan. This terrifying power caused them to suck in a breath of cold air. It was simply too terrifying. Before they knew it, Yi Tianyun had already surpassed everyone, including the Glaze Region Master. Elder Go Huang and the others shuddered. They all suspected that Yi Tianyun had deliberately concealed his strength. Had he been hiding his strength ever since he joined the Heavenly Spring Celestial Realm? But that wasn't right. If that was the case, what was his goal? With such powerful strength, he should have joined a Grade 3 Celestial Realm instead of staying in a Grade 2 Celestial Realm. This question was quickly diverted by Yi Tianyun's actions. All of them glared angrily at the traitors. These traitors were all awake and conscious. It was just that they were seriously injured and couldn't move. Seeing that they were walking toward him, his face turned even paler, devoid of blood. At that moment, they realized that their Deputy Region Master was actually so terrifying. "You traitors! A bunch of ingrates! I didn't think that you would choose to betray us." Elder Go Huang and the others angrily complained. "Not a traitor. We all want to make our celestial realm more glorious." "No, that's right. We didn't do anything wrong. Even if we don't get a reward in the end, at least we can keep our celestial realm after the celestial realm battle." They still didn't give up. They felt that their decision was right and not wrong. Whether it's right or wrong, the punishment for traitors is death. Region Master Glaze's eyes were cold. She waved her hand, and the blue ribbon in her hand swept over, killing the elders one by one. The cleanup task was left to her. As the Region Master here, this situation was largely related to her. Whether it was her fault or not, she was in the wrong. This was called poor management. Now it's time to get rid of the traitors, but we've offended the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. What should we do? Elder Go Huang and the others were worried. It didn't matter if the traitors were killed. After all, they were their elders. However, 2 heavenly venerables had died here. They couldn't just casually deal with it. They would definitely incur the wrath of the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. What else can we do? The result is death anyway. Let's fight it out with them. Region Master Glaze wasn't an invincible existence. Some things couldn't be changed. For example, she couldn't change the situation in front of her. If they joined, they would die. If they didn't join, they would also die. They might as well fight it out. Don't be so pessimistic. Choose to join my celestial realm and participate in the battle of the celestial realm. Yi Tianyun said solemnly. Join your celestial realm and participate in the battle of the celestial realm? They looked at each other. They were all shocked by this topic. What was the main reason? What power did they have? What power did they have? They had some divine lord level, but they were far inferior to a grade 3 celestial realm. They had 1 heavenly venerables, but they were also far inferior to the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. Why? Region Master Glaze looked at him and asked. Chapter 1378. The phrase "by myself" shocked them all. These words were not just arrogant, they were domineering. They had to admit that it was effective. The strength that Yi Tianyun had shown previously had surpassed many heavenly venerables. But Yi Tianyun was alone. Could this really work? Heavenly Cloud Ruler, the sacred peak celestial realm that we are facing is too powerful. There are at least 10 heavenly venerables. This is not going to be easy. Elder Go Huang was shocked, but he quickly calmed down. These things needed to be calm. They couldn't just join in a moment of passion. There's no need to say more. Let's join your celestial realm. Glazed Protectorate Lord made his choice. The other elders were shocked. A Grade 2 God realm joining a Grade 1 God realm? If word of this got out, it would be a joke. There had never been such a precedent, but now they were the ones who had said it. Lord Glazed Protectorate Lord, this. They wanted to cry, but no tears came out. They didn't know what to say. Once Glazed Protectorate Lord made a decision, she would never change her mind. It was like this before and it was like this now. Do you think that I am hot-headed and make a decision at random? Glazed Protectorate Lord shook his head. If we don't join forces now, are we going to wait until the sacred peak celestial realm approaches? Everything was set in stone the moment we resisted. But no matter what, it's still a Grade 1 God realm expert joining us. Elder Go Huang and the others were no fools. They knew what the situation was like, but they really couldn't accept joining a Grade 1 God realm. It was like a powerhouse worshipping a weakling as his master. In the end, they couldn't accept this. It wasn't that they couldn't accept cooperation. It seems that you are still unwilling to put down your pride. Didn't you see the Heavenly Cloud Ruler's strength? Now, he is the one who wants us to join, not the other way around. Glazed Protectorate Lord shook his head. Elder Go Huang and the others fell silent. What Glazed Protectorate Lord said was right. The strength that Yi Tianyun had shown was enough to defeat them. So what if he was a Grade 1 God realm? Yi Tianyun alone was already much stronger than them. At the very least, if a few Grade 3 God realm heavenly venerables came, they wouldn't be able to handle them. But if we join their forces, we'll have to go to great lengths to relocate. Moreover, the environment in a Grade 1 God realm is much worse. Why don't they move over to our God realm? No matter which side they joined, they would have to move their base. They couldn't just abandon this place and run away, right? What a waste. Although not all of the planets could be moved away, at least some of them could. If possible, they didn't want to move away. They felt that this place was more secure, and this was only in comparison to a Grade 1 God domain. No, you guys should move to my faction. We don't have much time left. Yi Tianyun shook his head and rejected their suggestion. The Heavenly Spring Celestial Realm wasn't bad, but for now, it was still weaker than his 3 realms celestial realm. This wasn't just nonsense. The God Spirit race went all out. There were all kinds of great formations on the planets, and they were much more outstanding than this place. All right, there's no time to lose. Let's move immediately. Region Lord Lioli immediately issued an order. She had always been very decisive and would not go back on her word. Elder Go Huang and the others had bitter smiles on their faces. They could only choose to obey. Soon, they quickly issued an order. At the same time, they controlled several important planets to transform into spirit ships and quickly flew away. Actually, it wasn't difficult to transform them into spirit ships. Any Grade 2 God realm could do this. However, it required a lot of materials, and the speed wasn't very fast. Are you guys really that fast? Yi Tianyun looked at the moving planets. Their speed wasn't even 10% of the 3 realms. It was really too slow. This is considered slow? It's already fast enough. How can such a big planet be fast? Elder Go Huang and the others almost jumped up. In their opinion, it was already very fast. At the same time, they were also proud that they were one of the best among the many Grade 2 God realms. All right. Yi Tianyun didn't say much. The 3 realms was created by a super almighty. Naturally, it was much faster than them. However, it was still better than not being able to move them. They could move as many planets as they could. When they announced that they were leaving and choosing to join the 3 realms God realm, the cultivators were in an uproar. They felt that it was a humiliation for a Grade 2 God realm to join a Grade 1 God realm. Some of them chose to leave, while others chose to stand their ground and retreat together with them. The main reason was that some people heard the news that they had offended the sacred peak God realm. Hence, they all chose to leave. They didn't stop them. In such a situation, it was normal for disciples to choose to leave. Those who stayed were the most loyal. However, seeing so many disciples choose to leave, they felt a heartache. The foundation that they had cultivated for so many years was gone just like that. There were still many planets in the God realm that couldn't be moved. It wasn't that they didn't want to leave, but that they couldn't. Only a portion of the planets could be moved. Sigh, if we didn't choose to leave, I think there would be many people who would choose to stay. Elder Go Huang and the others sighed, frowning. I don't think so. Those who should leave will leave eventually. Haven't you all seen this happen many times? Region Master Lioli wasn't pessimistic at all. Instead, she looked calm. And this isn't a wrong decision. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would make a rash decision? They immediately stopped talking. They weren't like that in the past, but now it was hard to say. When they saw that Yi Tianyun was strong, they immediately surrendered to him. They all felt that it was a loss. Tianyun was very strong, but when the time came, they would be facing a Grade 3 God realm. Tianyun insisted that we move to his place. I think it's the safest place. There are many secrets that we don't know about there. Region Master Lioli smiled and said, if I'm not wrong, Tianyun is so calm. He must have the help of a powerhouse or some special power. This time, everyone looked at her. After thinking about it carefully, it was really possible. Yi Tianyun didn't seem like a fool. How could he make a wrong decision at random? Yes, there is indeed a powerhouse helping. However, they will only come to help when the battle of the God realm begins. Yi Tianyun looked at them and smiled. But you don't have to worry. As long as it's not the entire sacred peak God realm attacking, I am confident that I can stop them. They won't be able to return. The cold smile on Yi Tianyun's face made them shudder. They immediately thought of the tragic situation of the two holy masters. They were really killed in seconds. Chapter 1379. The other elders were very pessimistic. On the other hand, Glaze Region Master's heart was as clear as a mirror. Combined with Yi Tianyun's situation, she knew he had some confidence. Even if he wasn't very strong, at least he had more confidence than the Heavenly Springs sacred realm. She never dared to act recklessly. While others thought she was hot-headed, her head was clearer than anyone else's. Yi Tianyun's cultivation level alone is worth it for her to fight. If he could reach this level in a short period of time, it was enough to prove that he wasn't simple. He must have had a fortuitous encounter or had a powerful background. If he concealed his strength, it was even more obvious. He was already very strong to begin with, so he was the most suitable partner. I hope he can continue to surprise me this time. Glaze Region Master looked at Yi Tianyun, her eyes filled with hope. She felt that Yi Tianyun would always give her a little hope. She hoped that there would be a miracle this time. At the same time, the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm was in an uproar. The death of two heavenly venerables was undoubtedly a heavy slap to their faces, especially since these two heavenly venerables were from another sacred realm. This meant that they could participate in the sacred realm battle to snatch the token core. Now that two heavenly venerables were dead, it meant that they had lost two extremely powerful experts. What's going on here? How can a mere Grade 2 God realm possess such power? One of the experts sitting on the throne looked coldly at the people below. All of the elders were trembling uncontrollably. They were so frightened by this majestic aura that their bodies were trembling. The expert in front of them was without a doubt the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm's domain master. Naturally, his real name wasn't Sacred Peak. It was just that every domain master used the name of a god realm. This way, people would know which god realm they belonged to. According to the information we received, the other party has a helper. Moreover, it's a Grade 1 god realm helper. He's from the Three Realms god realm that appeared recently. The Three Realms god realm was originally called the Chaos Celestial Realm. It's a land without a master. It's extremely chaotic. To conquer the chaos celestial realm, one needs to be at least a half-step heavenly venerable or a heavenly venerable. Therefore, the chaos celestial realm is stronger than most grade 1 god realms. Being able to control the chaos celestial realm means that the domain master isn't simple. From the looks of it, the two heavenly venerables are dead. It's possible that the domain master of the three realms and the domain master of the heavenly spring divine realm teamed up. It could also be a sneak attack, or it could be a plot. Enough. The Sacred Peak domain master slammed the chair and said coldly, "I don't want analysis, I want results. Tell me simply, which one of you will go over and completely flatten their god territories? Don't waste your breath on me." The domain master of St. Peak was just that domineering. What he wanted was not useless analysis, but a simple and direct result. Submit to me and prosper, oppose me and perish. The elders below looked at each other. These were the local powerhouses of the Sacred Peak divine realm. There were 7 or 8 Empyrean venerables sitting on the side. Those who could sit down were all important figures, and the elders who were standing had high cultivation levels, but they were still a far cry from them. Only Empyrean-level powerhouses could sit here and talk. Even a peak divine lord, which was a half-step Empyrean, had to stand. In a third-grade god territory, this was the difference in treatment. Without a Empyrean cultivation level, one had no right to speak at all. The 4 of us will go over. At this time, the 4 elders sitting on the side stood up together. The highest cultivation level was a late-stage lower heavenly venerate, while the lowest was an early-stage lower heavenly venerate. Sending 4 of them at once was considered a relatively large move. 2 Empyreans died there, which proves that the other party is not simple. The 4 of us are best at working together. If we work together, even an early-stage middle heavenly venerate will not be a match for us. Unless the other party has a mid-stage or late-stage middle heavenly venerate powerhouse, we can easily take them down. If there is really an accident, it won't be a problem for us to escape. The leader was the 2nd elder of the Sacred Peak god territory, Empyrean North Peak. His cultivation level was the highest. As for the Great Elder, he sat on the side and did not stand up. The Great Elder's cultivation level was undoubtedly the highest. He was an early-stage middle heavenly venerate, so he was naturally quite top-notch. However, he did not need to go. If even he was sent over, they would really be looking down on these god territories. If 5 elders were to go, how could they not look down on the other party? If they sent too many, they would not be praised for being cautious. It would only show that they were too weak. When the other god territories found out, would they laugh out loud? The Sacred Peak domain master looked at them and said sternly, "All right, I'll leave it to you. Only success is allowed, failure is not allowed. The myriad heaven god territory is laughing at us. You must take them down." He was very confident in the 4 heavenly venerates. He knew how strong they were. When they worked together, they were indeed very powerful. Even if they faced a powerful heavenly venerate, they had full confidence in escaping. "Yes, Sacred Peak domain master." The 4 of them immediately turned around and flew out, not staying any longer. If they said they would eradicate them, they would eradicate them. They would use the fastest speed to wipe out these god territories that had offended their dignity. The myriad heaven god territory was their enemy, so they would be aware of even the slightest movement on their side. If a heavenly venerate died here, the other side would definitely be overjoyed. They could not wait for the fewer powerhouses on their side, the better. Sacred Peak domain master, looks like you were really careless. You lost 2 heavenly venerates against a grade 1 and grade 2 god territory. This aspect should be strengthened. Right now, we're stuck at a critical juncture. We can't help you snatch the token core. You'll have to rely on yourselves. That's right. We can't make any mistakes. If we fail this god territory battle, you can imagine the consequences. The lords above will be very dissatisfied. The powerhouses sitting on the side all released a powerful aura. It was obvious that their cultivation base was at the middle heavenly venerate level. Some had even reached the late heavenly venerate level. These were undoubtedly the helpers from the upper god territory. They were all sitting here, watching the sacred peak domain's every move. There will definitely be no mistakes this time. Everything was due to carelessness. This time, we will send them to investigate clearly. We will definitely solve the problem perfectly. Unless there are other forces helping us, we can easily eradicate them. The sacred peak domain master's back was drenched in cold sweat. These powerhouses were his biggest reliance. If they abandoned him, then the god territory battle would be over. At the end of the day, the sacred peak domain master looked so arrogant, but he was still a pawn of the upper god territory. That's good. However, it could also be the help of other god territories. Right now, many forces don't look like much on the surface, but they have powerhouses secretly guarding them. We won't make a move unless it's a critical moment. Otherwise, it will affect your providence. The heavenly venerates nodded. Carelessly helping would affect their providence. This was not something they wanted to see. Chapter 1380. The sacred peak celestial realm had already sent people to destroy the heavenly spring celestial realm. This news spread quickly among the other celestial realms, and everyone was watching the situation. Most of the celestial realms were gloating. Who asked the sacred peak celestial realm to be so arrogant? They had finally suffered a setback. However, they also felt sympathy for Tianyun. He would soon be destroyed by the sacred peak celestial realm. The sacred peak celestial realm was one of the top celestial realms. Facing such a powerful force, no one was willing to provoke them unless it was a critical moment. As for whether or not the celestial realm would help, that was impossible. No matter how much they disliked the sacred peak celestial realm, they would not help Tianyun. The reason was simple. The battle of the celestial realms was about to begin. They had to accumulate all their strength until then. If they used it now, it would be a waste, and the other celestial realms might benefit from it. That would be the biggest loss. As the four heavenly venerables chased after them, they quickly reached the heavenly spring celestial realm. When they arrived, they saw that most of the forces had been withdrawn. There were still some cultivators here. Boom! An explosion blasted one of the planets into pieces. The cultivators inside lost their souls from the explosion, and most of them were directly killed. A small number of them survived and were caught by Heavenly Venerate North Peak. He looked at the cultivator coldly and asked, "Are only trash like you left in the celestial realm?" "Only trash like us are left. I heard that they chose to leave. I don't know where they went. Please let me go. I'll tell you everything." The cultivator's eyes were filled with fear. He did not even have the courage to lie when he was suppressed by such a powerful force. Heavenly Venerate North Peak threw him, and the cultivator immediately turned into a pile of ashes. Then he grabbed a few more cultivators, and no one knew where they went. In fact, apart from some elders, most cultivators didn't know where they would be going, let alone them. This was the effect that Tianyun wanted. It looked like they were being transferred, but no one knew where they were being transferred to. Perhaps the celestial realm of the three realms would become a battlefield. At least they would not be easily intercepted during the transfer. After interrogating a large number of cultivators, they finally chose to give up. God Realm of the Three Realms. Heavenly Venerable North Peak's gaze was cold as he said, "They might have moved to the Three Realms Divine Realm. Regardless of whether they have reached the Three Realms Divine Realm, let's flatten it first." Heavenly Venerable North Peak immediately changed his target and headed to the Three Realms Divine Realm. The four of them nodded to each other, tore open the void, and flew away, quickly disappearing from the empty god domain. While they were flying towards the divine realm of the three realms, Tianyun had already bid farewell to Glazed Region Lord and the others and returned to the divine realm of the three realms in advance. He felt that the sacred peak celestial realm would definitely send someone to take revenge. If they couldn't find the person, they would definitely head to the three realms celestial realm. These were all inevitable unless the sacred peak divine realm swallowed their anger. The problem was that this was impossible. As a powerful force, it was impossible for them not to take revenge. If it was Yi Tianyun, he would have done the same. Since he had killed someone on his side, he definitely had to take revenge. Of course, Yi Tianyun wouldn't allow his subordinates to do such a thing. After Yi Tianyun returned to the Three Realms Divine Realm, he didn't let anyone be on guard. Instead, he covered the entire Divine Realm with his spiritual perception. He could observe every detail. This was the effect of having the I Am the Domain Lord title. He dared to act so recklessly because he had something to rely on. He didn't rely on his three senior brothers, but purely on himself. He had many trump cards, and this title was one of them. It was a super powerful trump card that could definitely stop intruders. This top title not only enhanced his damage, but it also allowed him to teleport at will. Coupled with the abilities he had previously obtained, he wouldn't have to worry even if a middle heavenly venerable came, much less a lower heavenly venerable. Another thing was to earn experience. Since the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm was so arrogant, he would deal them a heavy blow. He bet that the other party definitely wouldn't send everyone, but only a small portion. He had long figured out the background of these powerful forces. Each and every one of them was extremely arrogant. At first, they wouldn't even put him in their eyes. This kind of common sense would only make them suffer. In this way, sending a few heavenly venerable powerhouses over wasn't just giving him experience, but also helping him eliminate some enemy powerhouses in advance. It was mainly to give experience. Outside the Three Realms Divine Realm, his combat strength wasn't that strong. Taking advantage of the fact that the Divine Realm battle hadn't started yet, he could reap a huge harvest in advance. Yi Tianyun didn't tell anyone about this. There was no need to alarm anyone. As for announcing his participation in the Divine Realm battle, he would wait for the Glazed Region Lord and the others to arrive. After he stayed here for a period of time, waves of fluctuations finally came from the void at the edge of the Three Realms Divine Realm. Following that, four figures appeared in the Three Realms Divine Realm. Each cultivator exuded a powerful aura. A Grade 1 Divine Realm is indeed a Grade 1 Divine Realm. The environment is too bad. How long has it been since I came here? One of the elders shook his head, his eyes full of disgust and disgust. This feeling was like a rich man entering a slum. It's rare to see a heavenly venerable here. It's very likely that a Grade 3 Divine Realm sent a heavenly venerable here to occupy this place. But what's the point of this? A Grade 1 Divine Realm is too trashy. I don't want it even if it's for free. Who cares what the situation is? Let's flatten all the way and see what the owner of this place is capable of. The four of them nodded to each other. When they were about to start attacking from the nearest planet, a shadow fiercely slashed down from the side, and a crack suddenly appeared in the dark void. Heaven slaughtering divine art, metal annihilation. A sense of crisis surged from behind them, causing them to open their pores and mobilize the strongest power in their body to resist. Their reaction was fast enough, but the attack was even faster. Boom! One of the wood attribute elders was directly split in half by a golden light. The golden light was very dazzling in the void. The body that was split in half was swallowed by the surging metal attribute energy. It didn't even have a chance to be reborn before it was completely suppressed. Ding! Successfully killed Heavenly Venerable Huan Mu. Reward, 80,000 compressed EXP, 1,000 compressed Crazy Point, 1,000 SBS. Obtained Huan Mu's spiritual treasure, clear sky armor, high-grade heavenly Dao, heavenly wood divine art. Successfully killed a heavenly venerable Huan Mu. Reward, 30,000 compressed EXP. Chapter 1381. This sudden attack did not end there. A golden spear turned into a fiery red color. It was like a red-hot iron rod as it swept toward one of the elders. Whether it is speed or strength, both reached the extreme in an instant. The elder with golden physique was shocked by the scene in front of him. He wanted to quickly block the spear, but the spear had already hit his head, and his consciousness instantly disappeared. Xiong! The flame quickly swallowed the body, turning it into a pile of flying ash, drifting around. Successfully killed Heavenly Venerate's Scarlet Gold. Reward, 85. 000 EXP, 1000 Crazy Point, 1000 SBS. Obtained Golden Spirit Treasure, Golden Moon Divine Art, 50 times EXP card. Successfully killed a Heavenly Master, 30,000 EXP points. The battle was far from over. The figure swept out once again, wanting to kill the other two Heavenly Venerables. The remaining two Empyreans rapidly gathered together. With a loud roar, the Empyrean spirit treasures within their bodies were released, transforming into thick invincible shields. Boom! After the heavy spear smashed down, the two of them were sent flying. There were only a few more cracks on the thick protective shield, and it did not shatter under the impact of the spear. Fire attribute and the special wind attribute, the effect is not bad. The person who appeared in front of them is naturally Tianyun. Through the 50 times damage of the title, there is also the stacking of the attribute suppression, accompanied by a terrifying suppression. The title not only enhances the damage, but also the suppression, but for Heavenly Masters, the weakening effect is not much, only about 20% or so. Although it is only a little bit, for them, it is basically equivalent to cutting off an arm. With this title and the suppression, he didn't even need to rely on his crazy damage mode to kill a Heavenly Venerate. But it is just a lower Heavenly Master. If it is a middle Heavenly Master, then he needs to activate the crazy damage mode. This is the proof of the saying, "In my territory I call the shots." Divine Emperor level? Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The strong person who killed them turned out to be a Divine Emperor. This is something they didn't think of. If the other party was a middle Heavenly Master, they wouldn't be surprised. Now that he was a Divine Lord Cultivator, the aura he gave them was as such. For the first time in their lives, they wondered if their judgment was wrong. It felt like he was a Divine Lord, but the power he displayed was comparable to a middle Heavenly Venerate. He was even more heaven-defying than a middle-level Heavenly Venerable. Even if a middle-level Empyrean killed their way over, they wouldn't be so stealthy. Two elders were killed almost instantly, scaring them until their limbs went soft. They had thought that they would be able to join forces, but now two of them had already died. As for their combined defense, it was even more fragile and had almost been smashed apart. What cultivation level is important? Killing all of you is enough. Tianyun sneered. The starry divine spear in his hand didn't stop for even a moment. He waved it and smashed it against the shield. The two Empyrean Venerables' faces turned serious and they immediately changed their mentality. They knew that if they didn't counterattack, only death awaited them. Thus, when the wind and fire attributes were stacked together, they immediately formed an extremely powerful tornado. The energy of this tornado covered a large area, besieging over towards Tianyun. It was a siege with virtually no blind spots. The horrifying tornado even turned into a wall, sealing off all escape routes. This level of horrifying tornado was enough to tear apart all space. The void was rapidly torn apart under this tornado. It was useless to hide in the void. This was the effect of fire giving birth to wind. It could make the power of the tornado stronger. After joining forces, the power was greatly enhanced. All at once, the effect soared to the power of an early-stage middle Empyrean cultivation. It was just a pity that there were only two people. If the four of them joined forces, the power could absolutely suppress ordinary early-stage middle Empyrean powerhouses. They could even fight with middle-stage powerhouses. The power is still alright, but it's still too far off. Suppress. The starry divine spear in Tianyun's hand waved. An invisible force transmitted over from the void, suppressing down fiercely from the sky. The originally violent tornado became an ordinary tornado all at once. The power was cut down by 30%. This was his territory after all. As long as it was energy, it could be suppressed. Immediately after, he smashed down with his spear again. This tornado was easily broken. He rushed up and pierced through one of the fire attribute Heavenly Venerables. Heaven-slaying divine art, water annihilation. A thick water attribute aura was mobilized from the 5-element core in his body. The starry divine spear in his hand seemed to be filled with water attribute power. In an instant, it was already in front of him. Defend! The two of them immediately cooperated and once again built a thick barrier. This kind of barrier was equivalent to a special kind of wind barrier. It could withstand extremely strong attacks. Especially when the two of them joined forces, their defensive power was even stronger. Break for me! Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold. The starry divine spear in his hand glowed with a golden light. The all-conquering power of magic gold was released. Mixed with the power of water immediately turned into a sharp sword that stabbed down. Clang! The thick wind barrier was easily cut open. The other party was shocked. This was a treasure formed by their Empyrean spiritual treasure. How could it be so easily broken? After piercing the wind barrier, the spear directly pierced through the fire attribute Heavenly Venerables. Heavenly Venerables' North Peak's face turned pale. He quickly dodged to the side. This spear not only killed the fire attribute Heavenly Venerables, but it also brought a strong sense of death to him. He really wanted to save his companion, but the disparity in strength was too great. It was simply a one-sided beating. Die! Yi Tianyun twisted, and the fire attribute Heavenly Venerables was immediately torn into countless pieces. Successfully killed Heavenly Venerables Crimson Light. Reward: 95,000 compressed EXP, 1,600 compressed Crazy Point, 1,300 SBS. Reward: Crimson Light Spiritual Treasure, Crimson Light Divine Art, 5,000 compressed EXP and Divine Pill. Reward: 20,000 compressed EXP for killing above level. Compressed Divine Pill. Tianyun felt a bit speechless about this reward. Although it was not bad, the overall difference was too big. Immediately, his eyes turned to the last remaining Heavenly Venerables North Peak. Out of the 4 elders, he was the only one left. He had to admit that this was really tragic. They didn't destroy any planets, nor did they kill any powerhouses from the 3 realms God realm, and they already lost 4 of their elders. Chapter 1382. Are all the divine lords of the 3 realms divine realm this strong? Heavenly Venerable North Peak began to doubt his life. How could the divine lords here be so strong? Otherwise they could hide their auras. But that was not right. He did not sense any heavenly venerable power. It was the orthodox power of the heavenly Tao. It was precisely because of this that he began to doubt his judgment. It was normal to hide one's aura when walking, but to hide one's aura in battle? Hence, he felt that the other party's cultivation level was truly at the Divine Lord level, just as he felt. But even at the Divine Lord level, the other party could erupt with power that he could not hope to match. Not bad. All the Divine Lords of the 3 realms Divine Realm are this strong. Yi Tianyun teased as he approached Heavenly Venerable North Peak step by step. He looked at him and said, I never expected the Sacred Peak Divine Realm to give me face by sending 4 Heavenly Venerables. I wonder if they will send other powerful Heavenly Venerables? I'm looking forward to it. The more the better. Heavenly Venerable North Peak's expression changed. If more Heavenly Venerables came, the outcome would be the same as before. They would all be easily killed. Everything happened too quickly, so quickly that he had no way to defend himself. Now he was in despair. If he did not send the message back, no one would know about the situation here. If he did not return for too long, he would definitely be judged dead. If they still sent people over, they would fall for it. Run! Heavenly Venerable North Peak did not know when a bead had appeared. He crushed it and the bead immediately wrapped around him, instantly disappearing from his spot. This was an escape bead. As long as he used it, he could easily escape. It was similar to teleportation, allowing him to escape to a faraway place. The problem was that the location was random. It was unknown where he would escape to. Swoosh! The next moment, he appeared in a certain region of the 3 realms Divine Realm. He did not know where he had escaped to, but he was certain that he had escaped very far. This escape bead was much faster than tearing through space to escape. Tearing through space required some time. If the difference in cultivation was huge, this amount of time would not be long. However, against someone much stronger than him, it would take a long time. Hurry up and spread the news. There's a divine lord here that's comparable to a middle heavenly venerate. Furthermore, he appears and disappears unpredictably. Heavenly Venerate North Peak quickly took out his communication jade pendant, hoping to spread the news. When he poured his spiritual sense into it and was about to crush it, a cold light streaked over and cut off his arm. You want to send a message? Did you ask for my permission? A ghostly voice came from behind. Heavenly Venerable North Peak ignored the pain and quickly dodged to the side. What he saw was still that familiar figure, scaring him out of his wits. Why would I appear here? I already used the Escape God Pearl. Without any hesitation, he quickly took out another Escape Divine Pearl with his remaining arm. Just as he was about to crush it, a ray of cold light came from behind him and chopped off his other arm. Now, he didn't even have a hand. If he wanted to be reborn, he would need some time to quickly recover. I already said, did you ask me if you wanted to send a message? Tianyun reached out and stabbed. The stellar divine spear pierced through Heavenly Venerable North Peak's body and nailed him in the void. The 5 elemental core's energy surged out and suppressed his strength, preventing him from escaping. Heavenly Venerable North Peak's heart was dead. He didn't expect that he wouldn't even have a chance to escape. He had even used the Escape God Pearl. This thing was a one-time use item, and its price was equivalent to a high-grade Heavenly Tao treasure. How could he not feel the pinch? Heavenly Venerates basically all had Heavenly Venerate spirit treasures. However, with his cultivation, he could only have one Heavenly Venerate spirit treasure. Sometimes, he still had to rely on Heavenly Tao treasures. Otherwise, there would be nothing else he could use. Kill me. I'll accept my fate. Heavenly Venerable North Peak's gaze was resolute. At this point, he could only accept his fate. However, he looked coldly at Tianyun and said, however, don't think that our sacred peak divine realm only has this bit of power. When the divine realm war begins, your divine realm will definitely be destroyed. After the divine realm war began, the entire divine realm would fall into chaos. It would be normal for some forces to be destroyed. Do you know why I spared your life? Tianyun looked at him and smiled. Because I want you to send a message. If you don't, how can I send a message about my situation? Send a message? Heavenly Venerable North Peak was stunned. He had wanted to send a message before, but Tianyun had interrupted him. Now, he was the one to send a message? Immediately, Tianyun took out a communication divine stone from Heavenly Venerable North Peak's body and placed it on his head. You can send a message now. It's best if you say that I was ambushed. I did ambush you. Ambush? Heavenly Venerable North Peak subconsciously asked, but his voice had already entered the communication divine stone. Not only could this communication divine stone record spiritual sense memories, but it could also record voices. As he said this, Tianyun suddenly smashed the communication divine stone on his head. With a loud bang, the communication divine stone broke and the message was rapidly transmitted. It's done. That's right, it was a sneak attack. Tianyun was very satisfied. I didn't use my strongest strength to defeat you. I used a sneak attack to suppress you. It has nothing to do with strength. Heavenly Venerable North Peak's eyes widened. He finally knew why Tianyun didn't want him to send a message. He wanted to send a message that there was a heaven-defying divine lord here, at least at the middle Heavenly Venerable level. Moreover, this divine lord could appear and disappear unpredictably with all sorts of abilities, thus achieving a suppressive effect. Now, Tianyun only needed him to send a message that it was a sneak attack. This way, the other party wouldn't know that they were in an unknown situation. This way, they would think that it was a sneak attack. They would be more cautious and continue sending powerhouses to suppress them. This was the effect that Tianyun wanted. How could he not continue harvesting? There were so many fat sheep. If he didn't harvest a portion of them, he would be letting himself down. Now that he had obtained experience, he could break through to the 6th level of Divine Lord. He wasn't far from the 7th level. However, he didn't want to level up now. After he leveled up, the reward for killing someone above his level might disappear. After all, when the gap wasn't large enough, the reward for killing someone above his level would disappear. This wasn't an outcome he wanted to see. What you? Thank you so much for your message. I will treat the powerhouses you send well. Of course, it would be a pity if you don't send them over. Lee Tianyun smiled at him. Heavenly Venerable North Peak was furious. If they continued sending people over and caused their deaths, it would be their responsibility. I want you dead. Chapter 1383. Successfully killed Heavenly Master North Peak, obtained 135,000 compressed EXP, 2,600 compressed Crazy Point, and 2,300 SBS. Obtained North Peak Spiritual Treasure, North Peak Divine Art, and Sacred Peak God Realm Key, opens most of the secret rooms. Obtained 30,000 compressed EXP for killing a Heavenly Master. All 4 Empyreans were killed, not a single one left behind. The experience and rewards obtained were extremely rich. Not only the items they dropped, but the wealth they carried was also extremely rich. This was a Heavenly Master, especially an elder of the Sacred Peak God Realm. It can be said that they are extremely rich. The wealth in any random person's storage ring could easily crush half of a Grade 2 God Realm cultivator. Therefore, there is no better way to earn more resources than this kind of invader. There is no need to run around, just wait for them to come. I hope they continue to send a batch of strong masters. It is best if they are stronger. Lee Tianyun twirled the Star Divine Spear in his hand and smiled faintly. Otherwise, I really can't try to see what kind of effect can be achieved in my territory. The 4 Heavenly Masters were easily killed, and this made him suddenly feel confident. The originally arrogant Heavenly Masters can be easily crushed in front of him. Just the effect of this title is enough to crush everything. After all, in theory, the doubled power and suppressed power are equivalent to superimposing. According to the multiplication, the superimposed effect can be at least 60 to 70 times more power. This alone can be said to be invincible. If the opponent's cultivation is too high, then he will increase his cultivation, and then with a stronger foundation, he can crush the opponent. After the communication Jade Pendant was released, the news quickly spread to the Sacred Peak God Realm. After reading the message, they could only hear the word, sneak attack, and the voice has already stopped. Sneak attack. In the hall, everyone was dumbfounded. The 4 elders sent are all dead? A sneak attack, are they dead or alive? No one knows. But listening to this situation, they must have encountered some kind of danger. And it is even possible that they are all dead. Everyone's face is ugly, especially the Sacred Peak God Realm Lord sitting on the throne. His face is ugly to the extreme. His behavior has affected the major evaluation, especially the Heavenly Master next to him. Their smile is gone, and their face is also not looking good. Losing 4 Empyreans all at once, anyone would not be able to laugh. Especially the Heavenly Masters from the Outer God Realm, who can participate in the whole Divine Realm war, are gone? Even if they are alive, it is estimated that they are dead. It was possible that they were still being pursued or they were trapped. Anything was possible. There were too few messages sent back. This kind of message with only 2 words might have been interrupted, or it might have been sealed. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a simple message with only 2 words. With their strength, can a sneak attack work? The Sacred Peak Region Master's face was terrifyingly gloomy, and his heart was filled with anxiety. The mighty ones around him did not know what to think. Their cultivation levels might be lower than the Sacred Peak Region Lords, but they represented the thoughts of the higher-ups. This was completely different. If he were to report this to the higher-ups, he would be done for. He might even have to be replaced by someone else. We don't know if a sneak attack will work, but the situation doesn't seem too good right now. The Empyrean on the side spoke up, his complexion not looking good. If they lose the Divine Realm War, let alone the Sacred Peak Domain, they will suffer too. They have been given an important order, and are now tied to the Sacred Peak Domain, so the Sacred Peak Domain's direction is very important. Cold sweat beads on the Sacred Peak Domain Master's forehead. He can tell that these heavenly masters are not happy. Who can be happy in such a situation? Elders, there should be no problem, as long as we send people to investigate. We will be very careful this time, and send more powerhouses to investigate and figure out what is going on. The Sacred Peak Domain Master said solemnly, "Who knows, it might be the Myriad Heaven Domain behind this. The sacred realm of the three realms might be created by the Myriad Heaven Domain. A first-grade god realm, to be able to keep the four elders, must have a backer. This backer might be the Myriad Heaven Domain. If it is not at the level of the Myriad Heaven Domain, they really can't think of any force that can stop them." The Myriad Heaven Domain? Everyone looked at each other before they slowly nodded their heads, indicating that they agreed with this conjecture. If it really is the Myriad Heaven Domain, this is not an easy matter to solve. We must not attack rashly. First, send some people who are good at gathering information. It is best to sneak in and investigate thoroughly. That is the key. One of the middle-level heavenly venerables analyzed calmly. Not attack directly? The Sacred Peak Domain Master is extremely hot-tempered. The four elders are trapped there, and it is unknown if they are dead or alive. Why not send people to rescue them immediately? What if it is a trap? The Heavenly Venerate looked at him coldly and said, "The opponent might be the Myriad Heaven Domain. The support they have will not be any less than yours. As for the four of them, let's not care about them for now. First, send people to investigate the background of this first-grade god realm." Yes. The Sacred Peak Domain Master could only choose to agree. He had no right to refuse, he was just a pawn. Immediately, they began to send out spies to search for information, including the Divine Emperor Yuqin. The experts they sent out were all divine monarchs, even Lord of Heaven level. They were sneaking in to gather information, not to kill anyone. It was just that the original radical method was changed to scouting. But this decision immediately allowed the heavenly venerables who were supposed to be killed to escape. In the meantime, Tianyun stayed in the sacred realm of the three realms, waiting for the Sacred Peak Domain's revenge. But after waiting for a while, he did not see the Sacred Peak Domain's revenge. Instead, he sensed many unfamiliar cultivators with lower cultivation levels entering. There is another acquaintance? Tianyun's figure flashed, and he disappeared on the spot. At the edge of the sacred realm of the three realms, the Divine Emperor Yuqin had really broken through to Divine Monarch, but his cultivation level was still relatively low. Reaching level 1 God Monarch meant that he had just broken through not long ago. Sacred Realm of the Three Realms. What is this new sacred realm? Where did it come from? She was quite interested that the Divine Emperor Yuqin had been sent here. Anyway, she did not want to stay in the Sacred Peak Domain, so it was not a bad idea to come out and get some fresh air. Not much of a background. A voice came from the side, giving the Divine Emperor Yuqin a fright. He looked to the side cautiously and realized that it was someone he knew. "Why are you here?" The Divine Emperor Yuqin was shocked. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."